games or videos or
right.
Okay, we're getting started, guys. Oh, we're live. Not getting started. We're live.
We're live.
Hey.
It's alive.
We think.
Sorry.
Season 7 episode. What is it now, Rusty?
Episode 4.
Okay.
Oh, that could be. I'll trust you.
I think it's episode 4.
I think you're right.
Cool.
Looks like we got a couple people in now.
Yeah, we're having issues again.
Striker and Clark. And
oh, hey guys.
Thanks for joining in. Rusty's been having some technical difficulties tonight.
Yeah.
That's why we're starting a little late. And if he drops off like he is right now, we'll just continue to chat.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see what's going on with him, and if not, we can start doing our update kind of stuff.
Right, yeah, we can give him a minute or two to see.
Yeah, and so yeah, he's kind of doing that swirl thing there. There he is. Look like he's coming back in.
Okay.
Oh, he's coming in on a different. He's in on a different
He's coming
camera.
in twice.
Oh, yeah. He kind of came in laterally there.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Oh, looks like we get Chris from Walkabout Games as well.
Hey, Chris.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
Wow. Okay. Maybe this is the time it's going to work.
Are you using a different device now? Or no?
Well, after rebooting everything, rebooting the router and everything.
Okay.
I don't know what the heck the deal is. It's like had no problems at all the whole night and everything, and all of a sudden, the moment we start doing this, it was like went belly up.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So tonight, as everybody can tell, we have both Dan and Tim as guests, and thank you both for joining us. And I'm not even sure I should call Dan a guest anymore because he's kind of pretty regular, which is
kind of the annoying neighbor that won't go away.
Thank you, Dan, for attending.
The permanent member.
Well, I try to be here when I can. Yeah.
No, it's
Thanks
good.
For having
it's good,
me.
And we really like having Tim on as well. Thanks very much for joining us. Just for chatting about his cool little display behind him there, like. I have such a garbagey room right now to paint and to do stuff in, and I look behind and he's got this like perfect landscape with like the sky and like everything. It just looks so cool.
I know. Table full
really
of troops.
Does.
It looks really sharp. Yeah.
But Rusty, I normally don't go first. This doesn't seem like most cases, particularly when we have guests, but I'm itching to get to my musty drink, so I'm thinking maybe I might choose to go first, if that's okay tonight. It's been a while.
This must be something special.
It's been one of those days. I'm just kind of looking forward to it, and I know I'm going to have to wait 45 minutes if I actually go first to get my drink.
Not wrong.
All right.
What I'm going to do.
We'll have you go last, Palmer.
Oh, there we go. I've been vetoed. Anyway, I haven't even talked on the channel about my gaming, but like I've been doing a little bit of painting, but I've been doing some gaming, Warhammer Fantasy Battles with the Beastmen. As you guys may know or may not, just from listening on this show and my videos, I've had a bit of a losing streak with my Beastmen. I was on a winning streak for a while, and I was actually like on a pretty long losing streak. But then last week I played a game, and a lot of stuff clicked together with what I've been doing with them, and I don't really attribute it to one thing. Like I've been ambushing with the way you're supposed to in 6th edition with their book, and then also taking some look. Like I took a strong unit of Minotaurs with full command, which I hadn't had luck with my Minotaurs in the past, but giving them the full command and using the way I did, it was pretty good. And then I've been using the Shagath as my general, which has been pretty devastating. Like he's pretty terrifying actually on the table. And then mixing it all in, it was a lot of fun. And so I actually enjoyed a lot of my losses. Like I've had a lot of good games and even tight ones where there were losses. It's not like I don't I love the Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and so it doesn't have to be a win to enjoy it. But I surely do if I'm having trouble, I surely do really think heavily about strategy and what I'm going to do in the future to try to get better. And so I had 2 wins in a row against different armies, and that was good. I got a big game coming up. I'm going away not this weekend, but next weekend. And we've got a 2-on-2 game, so 4,000 points versus 4,000 points. So I was looking forward to that. So that'll be a lot of fun. And so in preparation of that, one of the things that I was missing is I was missing a little bit of painted Beastman Command for my Beast Herds. And I put up a video recently, and I did finish these guys. Now, I don't know from a light perspective how good I'm going to really be able to show this. But maybe you can see the general idea. Maybe you can't really see the detail here, but I've got the guys that I was showing on there that are finished. And I did about 7 miniatures to catch up and get some command and other stuff done. I did make another standard. Actually, you can't even see that it's yellow with the way the camera is here. This is a yellow and white. It looks all white to me, the skull. But I actually experimented a little bit with some fairer looking beastmen. I usually and I'll show them on my video, but or I should say on my channel. This guy's actually not quite albino, but he's quite fair compared to some of them, and it came out kind of nice. A little bit of a different scheme. And what I'm planning on doing tonight, I've been researching my Americans for bolt action and getting ready to paint some tanks just to get started. Gonna assemble some of those, but in the meantime, after I finish these guys today, one thing I did is I green stuffed. I have a champion Nurgle demon. They're the what are they called? Come on, guys. Not the well, actually, he's not a gore, but I know those are the Nurgle beastmen.
Oh,
this is actually not beastmen. Oh, this is the demon. So it's the I forget the name of them. Not the bloodletters, but and not the
plague bearers. The plague
bearers, yeah. So this is the plague bearer command champion. He has a hand that normally is a separate piece, and I got an entire unit of 20 with command, but the only thing the guy didn't have was the hand. And so I green stuffed, because these guys have, to begin with, pretty deformed hands. I green stuffed a pointing finger, which is basically what he's doing with the original model. And so I green stuffed and did a little bit of modeling today with that. And right now what I'm doing is I've got some Banshees that I've showed on the channel that I've green stuffed today, some of the bases, and I'm just putting some sand on the Banshees tonight. I did a lot of painting today. So I actually finished my Beastmen. The other thing I did do is these guys, I painted the shields like I usually do. You probably, again, can't really see it, but you can barely see it. Oh, but I actually have some demon faces on the shields.
Free-handed, right?
Yeah, free-handed. And so,
nice.
So I did like those guys, finish them up today. So tonight I'm really just going to have my musty drink and do some sand up these bases on the Banshees and chat with you guys. I don't have a ton to paint. And as far as my musty drink goes, I've got 2. So you watch out.
Wow.
Watch out. That's right. 2-fisted.
I'll chaperone. Don't worry.
I am gonna have a steam whistle, which is starting with just a nice cold beverage. It's basically a Pilsner that's made, I believe, out of Toronto, Canada. Used to be marketed very much as almost like a microbrew, but now it actually costs about as much as Coors Light. It's like mass produced, and it's a good one if you like a Pilsner. But then the actual musty drink is I have got a French brandy that was given to me a while ago, and I'd cracked this open up. It was a gift. Wow. Yeah, and so I actually had this the other day, and I thought, I'll bring that to the Musty show. I don't think I've brought this on the show, Rusty, in the past. You frozen there, or are you just staring intently at the bottle? What are you, Rusty? Are you there?
We can see him. Oh man, it's gonna be one of those nights. Shouldn't laugh because that is so frustrating.
Oh,
been there.
Gosh. I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Here he comes.
Okay,
Rusty?
he's back in.
That's his happy face right there.
Yeah. Actually, that kind of caught that one live. I was like, Rusty, have you ever seen this one before? And you were like just frozen staring at it. Like for this longest period of time, I'm like, Rusty?
Trying to read the small print.
Yeah. Did you catch that brandy that I showed there, Rusty? Maybe not.
Uh-oh.
Sound like he's having trouble. I won't make fun of him too much.
Mine.
I know it's annoying when that happens.
It's frustrating.
Anyways, while I'm just finishing that up and getting this kind of stuff ready, it looks like we do actually have some additional comments here. We've got Chris saying, bring on the drinks. Palmer jinxed him by Matthew. Hello, Matthew, for joining us. Oh, never mind. It was a couple minutes behind. Chris says, Century Box must have Palmer on speed dial when they get these old minis. I do get a fair bit. I got a couple here the other day of old Chaos Warriors. I'll have to show them on my channel. But I got actually some additional High Elf command for my future High Elf army to round it out. And I got some old 80s Chaos Warriors to lead some of my Chaos Warriors when I get those going.
Where'd you get them from?
Century Box, just like my local gaming store that Chris was talking about. They have a couple cabinets where they fill them with old miniatures. When
people trading?
Trade, yeah, they trade them for store credit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've got a store that does that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like I did that with one army. I think it was either my one of the demon armies I had or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a whole plague bearer army and all that kind of stuff with greater demon. I traded that in for, I don't know, been years ago, something else.
So we also got Crown of Command that joined us. Thanks for joining us, Crown of Command. Awesome.
Oh, hey, Joshua.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the old hammer guy. The old, not only just and 40K and any old GW game, Hero Quest, or great channel.
Absolutely. And so yes, enjoying the musty drinks for sure. Chris says Iceman Rusty. Yes. He blinked, says Striker.
Blink twice if you're okay.
And then Chris says, was my go-to store when I was stationed in Calgary. I remember you saying that you were here at one point.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
We're separated decades apart. We could be playing like Musket and Tomahawks.
Yeah.
So who would like to go next? I know Rusty's kind of fading in and out right now. We probably should keep going with what everybody's up to.
Well, I'll go next. You can kind of see behind me what I've been up to. Doing another one of those editions of my solo wargaming campaign. Got it set up. Got like a preview video, and then turns 1 and 2. I did a short video on those, mostly moving and orders and all that kind of stuff happened there. A little bit of shooting. 3 and 4 is coming up. That ought to be, they're right in each other's faces right now, so they actually will pick up on that video for sure. And then I've been working on my Successor Kingdoms army. Like I said, my painting room is back that way. I'm just assembling some stuff out here while we're on the video, and I've been working on another unit of 40 pikemen. They're kind of some are being based and some have got the flock on them, and I'm almost done with the unit of 40 of those.
What manufacturer are they?
Those are Warlord Games, but I've also got the Victrix models. I got some of those. The Hypaptus guys, the guys that went with the Alexander, who were more armed like regular hoplites rather than with the pike. But there's a lot of discussion about whether they fought one way or the other. And so I would imagine you could have people out there putting pikes on them too, if you wanted to. But I'm going to get them like right out of the bag that like Victrix sends them, that I'm just going to put them together the way they are. But they were like, I would say they're more elite type, more of their Swiss Army knife infantry. They did all kinds of things. They just didn't walk around with a stick all the time. They were the ones that assaulted up ladders, and they did all kinds of things. They were they were quite the force to be reckoned with, and he always had them with him, somewhere in his battle line. So
cool.
Yeah, and right now I got some Warlord games. They're silver shields, but I'm telling you, these heads. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but these heads that come with them, they kind of look.
I'm not the host, or I would actually blow up your screen. But like I'd blow it up at full screen, but I don't
blow it up.
Rusty's the host.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. They kind of look like the Hypeptus heads, and so I don't. I'm not sure if I'm going to use these. I might just make this box of regular guys and just stick with the other models and not use silver shields. I don't know, but they were kind of the old pikemen of the army. And yeah, have you ever had one of those projects where you're painting and you just not liking what you're doing? It's like I'm struggling with this. The first unit I did came off like that. This one I am struggling with. I don't know why, but it just seems like drudgery. I think what I need is a palette cleanse. I need to do something completely different.
Yeah.
I might break out a fantasy model and work on something completely, because I think somewhere along the line I've got a block going on with these guys. It's like the colors don't feel right. The I don't know. The shield's so big it covers up all the. I hate painting white. I know that. I hate painting white. It's just,
I think that happens to me too sometimes. It's tough. I mean, particularly if you've done something already and it was challenging and you kind of felt like you got through it, and then you liked it, but then okay, now I've got another 30 to do, and like sometimes like the incentive isn't to feel is there except for the gaming, you know what I mean? Like you already have seen the final product, and I don't know if that's the case with you. Sometimes because a lot of times you paint large amounts, like it seems like you paint large blocks. Like I've not been doing that for a little while. When I was doing that, sometimes having the completed ones there near me to see can be inspiring. Like just to know now I'm going to double them, and just how cool is that going to be? You know what I mean? Like, and that kind of thing. And just when they're out of sight, it may not be as inspiring to paint. You know what I mean? Like the same thing again.
You're right, because as I did these guys a little bit different. I lined them up. I wish I had them. I just don't have the room on this desk to bring all that stuff out here, and there's no way for me to get my computer and my camera back there. So I've got them in strips, and I'm painting them in blocks, and then I'm going to magnetize those blocks on a movement tray, because I know for a fact I will break one of those pikes or two or three. And I'll have to be able to get into them to replace them at some point in time in the future. So, as I got into the project, as I've got like 3 or 4, I've got about 32 of them done already. And so I'm seeing that. I'm getting more juiced up about the project because I've got more and more done. You're absolutely right about that. But it was very difficult to get to that.
Sure.
That point where I really want to get into this and finish this project. Maybe I should do characters, some leadership models and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just to do a single
that
model.
helps.
Get away from the blocks of 40.
That's tough. I mean,
do you normally paint 40 though, or that's a lot? Woo.
Well, I did a block of 40. This is a block of 40. Most of them are going to be like blocks. I still got 120 in a box. So
120 what?
Some of those might not get done. They may be on eBay at some point in time, because I got enough light infantry. I still got the other specialized troops to do. That army's going to be big enough as it is. I don't know if I need another 120 Macedonian pikemen.
Well, yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, they might wind up on eBay. There's just, oof. I've actually had to add shelves to my cabinet because that's going to take up at least 2 shelves in a 36-inch wide, 24-inch deep shelf. I'm going to have 2 of those for that army.
Wow.
At least.
Yeah.
At least, yeah.
You kept up on the comments mostly, Rusty. I think
I didn't hear a thing.
I know. Well, I know. It showed you. Your screen is black. It showed you kicked off. I think the last one we mentioned was Walkabout Games, one that you have on the screen. The one with Clark and Matthew. After that, I haven't pulled up yet, or I haven't mentioned. So
okay. Yeah, it's like the internet here completely died. So I had 0 internet, which
It sounds good
nice.
now.
Yeah, it's like I rebooted the system again, rebooted the computer, and made sure that I was connected, and now it's working. So
you're still. I noticed you were a little max headroom there for a second. Like I don't know if people remember that. you were a little choppy there for a second. This is the Musty channel after all.
Headroom.
Black from the past, from the blast from the past.
So did we do our introductions and everything, or
no? We're halfway. Well, we're close to halfway through. I don't know. Did you have anything else you were working on or you wanted to share there, Tim?
No, this has been taking up quite a bit of my time right now. It's, the blocks of 40 pikemen do take up my time. So yeah, I've been working on like some terrain pieces. You kind of see the taller woods in the back.
Yeah.
It's kind of a quick little project I did.
That's cool.
On the, like, you know, the old CDs. They're just the round like CDs. I cover them up. I just wanted some scatter to throw on. I threw those together. They came out all right. They're very simple. Just
they look great from the distance there. I can't see them up close, but on the table, the variation of the trees looks really nice.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. I wanted some, because a lot of times, like with the Games Workshop stuff, you had either those little bitty small ones or you had a few tall ones in the box that you got.
Yeah.
And I wanted something different, something that was more in line with what would have been growing in the high country in Spain at the time. And you would have had a lot of trees back. A lot of pine,
nice.
Especially in the high country. Yeah. Yep. And
authentic. Nice.
I had somebody a few times complain to me about how tall my trees are, like when I'm playing BattleTech. It's like, your trees are too big. I'm like, actually, they're kind of small. You don't realize how tall trees are, do you? It's like 120 feet tall.
Is it because it's 6 millimeter scale and they're thinking that like a tree should be like 2 centimeters if it's 6 millimeter scale or something, or 3 centimeters?
A lot of people think that these battle mechs are like will walk like Godzilla or King Kong walking above the treetops, you know. When no, a typical mech's only 20 to 30 feet tall. So trees are 50 to 120 feet tall. So
I got some right up close to my house that are like, if a mech was that big, I don't think he could get it to move. It'd sink in the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be sunk up to its knees. Yeah.
It's like they have no concept really of what the size of stuff is.
Yeah, I always thought they were huge. I didn't know. I don't play, but
yeah. Well, you look at it.
You put them next to the guys. The guys are pretty small, right? Like they're 6 mil.
Well, I got them. Well, here, grab them.
How did we get talking on BattleTech again?
Boy,
I don't know.
Kind of crafty that way. He just kind of.
All right, there's your mech, right? This mech up. There's the cockpit right there where the guy sits in. So the guy is about between my fingers. That's how big
the guys is. Is that how big the guys actually are, though? The miniatures?
Yeah.
So about that 6 mil, right?
Yeah. So your typical mech is going to be about 4 times as tall as a guy. So
Yeah.
5 times, 6 times.
Okay,
Right.
now I learned something there.
So I guess like the button counters are very similar to the tree sizers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hit just as hard. Yep, just as annoying.
It's the same kind of group.
I remember that. Not, I know we're going off topic again, but the first time I posted the very first regiment of AWI troops I painted, it was 24. What were Continentals? Doesn't matter what regiment, but anyway, I chose to put the Betsy Ross flag in there. And
you told me that. Yeah,
I got reamed.
I remember that. Yeah.
Scolded. I got scolded for that.
You get scolded.
I did. I was like, yeah, I know it's not historical, but I liked it and I thought it looked cool. But that was not a good answer. So I quit posting.
How dare you?
Yeah. Whoa. I'm sorry.
The old rivet counters got all over your case.
Got there everywhere. Oh, it was one guy in particular, and I was like, okay, yeah, I was a little butthurt. I was
you suddenly experience what I've been saying has been the case for many decades. So
yeah.
Well, I'm just going to take my toys and
come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I'm going to take my toys and go home, which I don't have anybody to play with really anyway. So, it doesn't really matter. I don't get called out very often.
Exactly.
Yes.
So who's next then? Who wants to do their update next?
Well, we might go with Dan.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't bring anything to show because I know you
Wait
can
a
never
minute. No
see.
show and tell? What's this?
Can't see it anyway. So it's just, well, you can't really see it, but it's actually really cool. I've been continuing quite a bit of work on my Stalingrad buildings. I was using those precision model designs that I got from Frontline Games, and they come as kits, resin kits that you build however you want, but they have lots of ideas online to kind of decide how you want to do it. But got them glued together. Actually worked really well. You're supposed to use that. I don't have it right here, but is it Bob Smith or some? It's a purple super glue bottle, something Smith Industries or something. But that and the accelerator, it's a thicker glue. They make a whole range. That one company makes a whole range of like super glues, and this is the one they recommend. Because I was leery, how am I going to put this will never hold, and by gosh, it does. And once I'd stuck one together, didn't have it quite where I wanted it, and I didn't. Before I even put the accelerator on, I didn't think I was going to get it apart. It was so anyway. That's gone really well. So I got them all put together, and I did a bunch of my own customization, adding pipes and walkways and rubble piles and all kinds of stuff, and got them primed. And then I started actually, and this is part of a factory. It's a modular factory series that they have that they can all be standalone pieces, but they come on it's 5 inches by 10 inches piece of. Oh, it's 2 or 3 mil like chipboard or it's more like an MDF, and then that's what you use as your base. And since they're all that 10 by 5, you can put them, in rows, or you can put them butted into each other, or have them be separate pieces. But it's really cool. I'm real excited about it. I even found a Michelob Ultra beer can in the ditch, and it's one of those. I don't know how many ounces, but those taller, slender ones that don't look like a beer can. And so I was able to make one of those, and I glued a bunch of cereal box strips around and put rivets on it and a pipe on it, so it doesn't look at all like a can anymore, and use that for a chemical storage tank. And
oh, cool.
So that was a really fun project. A lot of stuff I used that I've been collecting over the last 3 years, just when I'm out working or something that the wife sends to throw out. I broke apart an old DVD player, the portable ones we used to have for the kids to watch while we were in the cars. And there's gears and stuff in there, and I tore all that apart, and I glued that down into like the rubble piles or leaning up against the walls. And the time you paint it, it's incredibly cool.
I'm sure that looks just.
It looks totally appropriate.
Watch parts are good for that, like
yes.
watches.
Yeah.
Like watch parts.
Yes.
I have.
Yep.
I have some of that. I actually had a question I wanted to ask you, Dan, about your World War II terrain, and it seems like a good time to ask. What I'm actually, because I'm thinking of doing some bolt action, and I have houses, and I have some roads that I've made myself that were dirt roads. I made them out of like roof shingles.
Shingles, yeah, pretty common.
Yeah, but for like cobblestone roads, what was your decision and how you decided to go to acquire cobblestone roads? Like, what did you do?
I
Or did you
avoided.
not
I
get
didn't.
cobblestone?
I
Did
did
you
not
not
use
get those?
cobblestone roads. No.
Okay.
I
Well, okay.
and I did make my own roads, but if I was going to do it, I just decided I don't need cobblestone and dirt roads.
Yeah, yeah.
And all of mine was, in small villages in France, which a lot of them might not even have been cobblestone, or if they were, it might have been just kind of the little center area there or something. So, and a lot of mine would be kind of, super rural. So, but I would use a green stuff roller and use what I used was I'm trying to think if it was like 2 mil. I get it. Well, there's two things you can use. One of them is actually, do I have the here? This is what I use for a lot of my terrain bases. Artist panel.
Oh.
And you can get it at
Blow
Hobby
that
Lobby. Hobby Lobby, you can get it, you can order it online. This is the brand I use. It's super duper cheap. And the reason I like this,
What is it exactly?
It's like let's see, what do they say on here? Artist panel. It would be like an MDF, but it's super hard. It's almost like the stuff on the back of like cabinets, the cheap cabinets you can get like at Target that just to make the backer board back there. Because it's only, I would say it's a 2 mil thicker ish, and it's primed on the one side. So and the reason that that's important is because when you're making your terrain, you're pouring lots of glue on there and paint, and and it'll warp. But if you use that as your upside, I just don't have any work, and I've dumped glue on there just to get the rubble piles. And
what would you put on it for cobblestone?
And then what I would do, I personally, just because, and you use epoxy sculpt and things like that, I think you've used, but I would just use the DOS clay. That's extremely cheap, easy to work with. Make sure you put glue down on top of the artist board or whatever surface, because it has no adhesive properties.
Okay.
So you have to put glue, just Elmer's white glue down, and then I'd roll it out in a separate place, cut it kind of to the size, lay it on there on top of the glue, and then roll that pin over it. Because I did do that for a couple cobblestone courtyards that I made for my buildings, and for the inside of a barn that I made, and it works really well, and it takes the paint so nice. And
did you use a green stuff roller, or what'd you use?
Mine is actually, yes, and I know I deserve 50 lashes that I have a green stuff product in my house. It was before I knew that was a sin.
I didn't know it was a sin, is it?
Yeah, you're not. If you're on to different Facebook groups and people are like, where can I get square bases? Where can I get fall leaves? Where can I get whatever? And they're like, oh, green stuff. And they'll
That's I think the.
But actually, Palmer, and I won't go into all the politics of it, but evidently because it's very common knowledge, I guess, that they steal ideas, products, pictures, all kinds of stuff from people. And don't give them any credit, and they just have a terrible reputation for that. Their products are good, but that's the reason, and I don't know much more about that. But the other thing you can do, you can 3D print rollers. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. I've seen them.
So you could do that too. There's several that I've almost bought just off of Etsy that were already printed.
That's probably a good idea.
So you could try that. I mean, you wouldn't be out much that way, and maybe you can even adjust the size of it so that you could, if you want smaller cobblestones or whatever.
Like a bigger road or something.
Or a bigger road, or if you think the stones, or if you like one that's actually like flagstones, you think it looks cool, but you want smaller, you could maybe shrink it down a little so that it's actually the scale that you want. Or if you want more of a brick pattern, you could do that too. But
Yeah.
that works good for the courtyards, and that's what so that artist panel works really good. I use that for all the bases of my buildings, or anytime I'm making rubble piles. And then I just slope the edge slightly with you can cut it with well, you really almost need like a jigsaw or a handsaw to actually cut it, but I can use like a utility blade to just bevel the edge so that it kind of blends in with the table.
You know what I used once, and I might revisit trying it, because I actually am tempted to use epoxy sculpt for the roads just because I have a large amount of it, and
right.
it's so tough.
And
it's
you're
so
used
tough.
to using it. It would be tougher than the DOS clay if you drop it on the floor.
Yeah, and I like that part,
Yep.
the synthetic toughness of it. But the one thing that I did use is Bondo. Have you ever used
really?
Bondo? Yeah,
I have been around it. Yeah, for vehicles.
Yeah, like real vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah, like actual what it's for.
Yeah, I used it, and it's a viable option that's kind of cheap.
Okay.
Yeah, it's viable to experiment with.
I didn't know how hard it was to like clean up and stuff. You know, that was the only you know, if I'd want to get into that. But
yeah. No, I'm trying to think what I did. You know what I did, and now maybe I take it back for this project, but what I did is I made my own mold of a road that I already did, and then I filled the mold with Bondo, and used and casted Bondo in it, is what I did. So it's not
kind of
applicable to use the green stuff roller on. It's not like it's more that I used it to cast into a mold that I made. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't know how it would work
tough.
with a roller. Yeah, it would be tough.
It's really tough. Like once you cast it, it's really tough.
But the epoxy sculpt, you're used to working with that. You did that tower with it, and I know you use it for your bases and things. So
I love it. Yeah, I love that.
Maybe that'd be probably a good product for you.
I think you're right. I think
it'd be tougher than DOS clay. That's just what I was comfortable using. But
no, and I think you're right about being comfortable with it. I've used air drying clays in the past and been a little disappointed with having breakages. But I think maybe I didn't use glue, like, afterwards.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. And that was just my own experience, and I'm not sure which brand I used. I don't know if it was DOS or something else.
I did that. I sculpted that barn out of DOS clay. I don't know if you remember that video from maybe a couple years ago. I used foam core to build the structure, and then that's how I did it. I rolled it and glued it on there, and then I sculpted the stones with some variety of tools, and then but that thing has been. I mean, if I dropped it on a concrete floor, probably from chest level, chunks of it would probably break off. I get that, but for the environment I'm using it in, I'm not concerned at all. But
it's fine.
Yeah. The other thing I'm looking at doing with my Stalingrad table, I found, because I was like, well, the table that I game on is a piece of plywood that I've actually gone on and put Woodland Scenic products down to make my green grass, because that was my first real full on gaming experience was doing bolt action. So I made a bolt action table, and all my terrain is modular, but my whole table is covered in a variety of green flocks, and then I lay stuff on top. And so I was thinking, what am I going to do for a Stalingrad? So you're thinking right away, like a mat or something. And I'm like, so I got looking at mats, because I wasn't opposed to spending $70 or $80 or whatever, or $100 for a mat, but I could not find one that really worked for me. Yeah, it just didn't work. They had some futuristic ones. They had some that were just kind of like mud or craters, and I would set my terrain on top of that, and I just couldn't go that route. And then I stumbled across a really good video on YouTube, and it's really the only one I found. There's a few other people that have done it, but they use a sheet to make one. And this guy, he took just a bed sheet and just Hobby Lobby El Cheapo acrylic paints, and used sponge techniques, the big old sponge, and he did scraping and dabbing, and he painted the whole dang thing and layered and blended. He made a snow mat, and it was gorgeous. And he showed it from start to finish how he did it. And then at the end, all he did was take an iron to set the colors, and it even blended them a little better. It kind of melted them just a tick, and then it was gorgeous. So that's what I'm going to do. I bought a piece of fabric at Hobby Lobby that was the size bigger than my gaming table, and then it was kind of perfect because it was kind of a dark gray, but it had like some, it had some like blended in lighter grays, and that's basically what my rubble terrain is. And so I've got that to start with, and then I'll go in, and I may end up painting 80% of it might be covered with paint, or maybe all of it, but I've got that to kind of work with, and then it will match perfectly because I can use the same colors I'm using from Hobby Lobby that I'm using for my terrain. I can use on my mat, so it will perfectly match tone wise, and the brick colors will be the same brick color, and then I don't want roads because I'll put my own roads on if I want roads, and gosh, it's going to be cheap as dirt to do, and I'm kind of excited. It'll be a fun new thing to try. He made it. He showed a bunch of them that he'd made, a jungle one and just a plains one, and I think it's a really good look, and I'm excited to try that. But that's on the list. Yeah, and then one last thing before I eat too much time. But the last thing I'm working on is every year for my two girls, I paint a Christmas ornament. And the one daughter, she was always into the Christmas Carol, and Foundry Miniatures, Wargames Foundry. They have a series of miniatures that are for that, and so each year I paint up a couple of them. And this year, finally, I'm down to the last two. And then my other daughter, I'm painting up Reaper Miniatures, has a nativity set. Each wise man is separate. There's a donkey, there's a shepherd and a sheep in the stable and all that. And so each year I paint up a couple of those and give to her. And so
nice. I remember you showing those last year.
Yeah,
some of them you were doing. Yeah.
I think I've done it about 4 years in a row now. So I'll finish up the Christmas Carol here, and then I think there's one more year, and I'll have the nativity done. But that's kind of a fun thing. It's something that you made that they don't have to set on a shelf. It can hang on the tree and get packed away, and then 40 years from now when I'm dead, they can still be like, yeah, that's cool. Dad made those, and so they're cool little miniatures, and it's a nice little, like Tim said, a little palette cleanser, because it's something I would never paint normally, and it's used some colors I don't use, and so that's enjoyable. It's fun to give something that you made. Share the hobby almost.
You actually I remember you put like the hook on them. Like
the
loop.
Yeah, I actually put if I can get it over to here.
Yeah, hang on a second.
Yeah, there's
put the
remember that.
Yeah, the little eyelets I actually drill and just
cool.
get some base layers down.
Yeah,
and
cool.
That's
for the hook hanging on the tree then. Oh.
Yeah, and then I'll put a little ribbon through, just a little thread through that, and tie it, so then they could hang it on the tree. And I've got these little metal boxes that my wife gets some sort of seasoning in, that I just put a little cotton in there, and then I put a piece of I put a label on top, just blank label, and I write what it is and the year and some little note to them, and so they get a little stack of these. They're about the size of like chewing tobacco type of only in a metal tin, so makes a nice little gift.
That's very thoughtful.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
I did one for each of my siblings, and my mother and father-in-law, and my mom and dad, just through the years. And so we're wrapping that up. But that's fun. Kind of a tradition. That's what I've been up to.
How about you, Rusty?
Well,
besides battling the internet.
Yeah, besides doing some
I've gone
IT.
to war with the internet, and the internet is lost.
For now. You don't say that out loud.
Well, let's see here. I've been kind of got these guys here. So if you watch my channel, you've seen the video of this.
I saw the thumbnail. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
I saw those on there.
Got line of sight. Got 12 mechs here. I got some House Steiner guys here. The blue and white.
Pretty.
Yeah, I got some House Lyle. Kind of green and white. And then I did some House Carita, which are red and black.
So they the same mechs, but just different colors. The color scheme makes them the different houses or whatever.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just like just think of it as a Napoleonics or
Okay.
The British are wearing red and white
Yep.
or
Yep.
red and
Gotcha.
yellow. So you got your different. It's like you got the Frenchmen, you got your
Mhm.
Or it could be
Prussian.
kind of like your Eldar, and like the House Lao could be like Bilton. And
Yeah.
then like you have
Yeah.
it's basically
Yeah.
the same colors. But it's the same idea, right?
Yeah, same thing. And I still have to work on this. I put the tiger together. The
Tiger. Yep.
Yeah.
Dang.
the tiger.
Nice.
Is it? Who's that from? Is it Rubicon or
No, this
Talon.
is Warlord.
Warlord?
So
Yep.
it weighs half an ounce, or not even that much. It's like
Yeah.
hollow plastic. It's like I was afraid it would blow off the thing when I was priming it.
I know. You're not wrong.
So I was like, somebody made a comment. I can't remember who did. Was that print some stuff off and then actually glue it inside to give it some weight.
Yeah, I've glued big old washers in them before on the bottom. You know.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We're putting it needs weight to it because it is so
Yeah.
bloody light. And let's see, I'm working on this right now. It's what do you call it?
I don't know. What is that?
It's a tray for one of my board games.
Oh.
The Dune
Oh,
game,
cool.
Oh,
Nice.
Dune.
right there. The Dune game.
I see it.
This is the spice bank. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh.
I thought it was to hold your prescriptions, Rusty.
I need to be
He
bigger
who
than
controls the spice controls the galaxy. So I
Yes.
printed this off, and now I'm gonna
that.
paint
Cool.
it. So, game pieces,
Yeah.
I printed this off. For those of you that have played
Oh, nice.
Epic
That's massive.
or 40K for this matter, you might.
Well, you could use that
recognize-
for like second edition
yeah.
or Rogue Trader.
So what is it?
It's
Orc.
a orc gob smasher.
Yeah.
Gobs.
I'm gonna be printing one of those too. I've already eyed those because they have some with smaller cannons too, right? Like
Yeah.
you can change that up, I think.
You can.
Huh.
They have
Huh.
the old style battle wagons from Epic scale
Yeah.
that or look just like the Epic ones, but they're battle wagons. And I have the file for one of them. I'm gonna print that next. I got the file for the old orc battle wagon that everybody's like wants to have, but they can't find anymore because they're so expensive. And I have one myself, but I want more.
Oh, I know. People do talk about that one.
It's like
I
I
don't know
have
if
one.
Joshua is still on from Crown and Command, but he just painted up one of these battle wagons you're talking about.
Yeah.
And because he's doing a lot of the second edition
Yeah.
second edition sort
It's-
of
It
battle
was
report.
his video where he was painting one up that made me get the itch back to
There you go.
some more orky stuff. I love
Yeah,
it.
I've been looking at him.
I've been
That's
an
cool.
orc fan forever and a day. So, but
It's a must
wait,
have.
there's more. I got another
That's
one.
not surprising. Oh. Smaller.
I didn't realize it. I made the mistake is when I printed it off. There's two different hulls and two different sets of tires. That So I printed the one hull off, and the tires I printed off went with the other hull. So I had to. It's like I might as well print another one with the different wheels. So I have two of them now. But this one's going to be red.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So why not have two gobs? If you can have one gob smasher,
Yeah.
two is even better.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's very orky of you.
Yeah.
Orc and
Yeah.
Mork are happy.
It's an everlasting gob smasher.
I did ask the guy that designed those, and I said, have you designed a spleen ripper yet? And he was like, that takes a lot of effort to make one, and he says he thinks he wants to do one, but he just hadn't had the time for it.
Okay.
And if you know what a spleen ripper is, it's the same battle cannon that you have in the front of this thing, but it's longer. And then
Oh.
you got something that looks like a big ass dragster. It's like got the with a big gas cannon coming out the front. I'm like, I always wanted one because they actually made one. It was a who had made those things? Was it Epic Cast?
Armor Cast? Epic Cast?
Armor Cast and Epic Cast were the two different companies made these.
Yeah.
And I wanted to buy one, but I could never find one. I could get one today, but I don't want to spend $200 to $300 to get it.
That's
back
strange.
in the day, they were like $35. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
So there's that. What else is on the table here? I have all the behind me. I don't know if you can see it. Right there is my Airborne Army.
Oh, yeah.
My American Airborne. I just got done watching Band of Brothers, and now I'm watching the Pacific. I'm really inspired. So
I never could get all the way through the Pacific, but I had it on while I was painting, and I think I was missing some of the story because I wasn't watching close enough.
Yeah, the Pacific isn't as good as the Band of Brothers.
I don't know what. Yeah, it's a shame. I was really looking forward to it. I have it on DVD.
The problem they did with the Pacific is they took two books and they smashed them together.
Okay.
Into one show, while Band of Brothers is one book.
Yeah, exactly. Which I read the book. Yeah.
So that's my update. Oh, and then my drink.
Busy.
My drink is Glenlivet.
Oh, nice. That's the one I really like.
Good choice.
Yeah, I really like Glenlivet. I usually keep a bottle of that at my cabin. Weirdly, just because I was given a bottle at one point and I brought it to my cabin. I always drank it there. So now whenever I run out of it, I don't even keep it at the house here. I just always drink it there. And so, yeah, no, it's a good one. Nice.
I never did see what your drink was. You said you were going to have to get to it.
Yeah. You froze right when I said, did you see the drink? Well, there's two. Like I'm drinking, I'm almost done now, but I'm drinking a Steam Whistle beer. That's not that's not my musty drink. As I was saying, that's sort of a Pilsner out of Toronto. But I got this rusty, brandy. It's a French brandy. I don't know if I've ever showed that to you before.
Let me put it up. Span that thing up.
Yeah. So I got this French.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna have some of this once I'm done with this.
I like a good brandy. I had that. That's Napoleon brandy, right?
I don't even know. I mean, it just says French brandy, Saint Remy, product of France. It's since 1886, Saint Remy has crafted brandies through the selection and distillation of wines sourced exclusively from French vineyards, aged in small French oak barrels. That's all it says. It can be enjoyed neat, on ice, or with simple mixer. I will do neat.
Neat is good.
Yeah.
As a wedding gift, my best man gave me an actual bottle of Napoleonic brandy. So I was very happy. It took me 20 years to finish it.
Wow.
Very, very tasty.
Yeah.
That shows a lot of restraint.
Concerning brandy, and I will not get into it. My goodness.
Bad memories?
Well, actually, no memory of it. Actually,
Is this a person or is this a drink?
Huh?
Is this a person or a drink?
It was the outcome of the drink was very good. It was amazing how quickly it snuck up on one who was young and foolish. Yes, we will not get into that story. Whoa.
So
you did not control your spicy brandy?
No. By the time we got back to the barracks, I had no idea where I was or how long it had taken us to get back from where we were. Apparently, we left the road and it was snowing, and we did 360s out in the middle with us in this little Volkswagen Beetle thing. I'm hanging out the window. I have no memory of it. we were having a wonderful evening. We were having a great conversation. The owner of this establishment closed it down, and we sat down. He brought out the special little bottle, and it was only about, let's see, about that big. I mean, and there were 4 of us.
Jeez.
And after a few shots of that, I don't remember.
That was it.
That was it. I was gone.
Wow.
The next day, I kept asking the guy, so what happened? What happened? I also remember as we were sitting at that table, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up in my bunk. It's like,
Wow.
It's like pictures at the end of the Hangover movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I am so
Jeez.
glad that the internet age was not around when I was a very young man.
Was this in Germany or
very
something?
happy about that. I can deny everything.
Were you in
Yeah.
Germany at the time?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I was. And it was some wonderful stuff. It was harsh. It just went down so smooth. We were
That's
having
what
good
gets you.
conversation, and the next thing I know nothing.
I know nothing.
I know
remember
nothing. No true words were ever spoken. I know nothing. Yes. Plausible deniability in that one.
Before we get to our first topic, by the way, Rusty, I don't know if you want to maybe do the one that was suggested first. I don't know, but it's up to you. But we have some comments.
Yeah, I got a bunch of comments I need to dig into because they keep it coming. All right, let me see where I was at. The last comment that I put up. We had, do you ever use Mod Podge?
Yeah, I do some,
Yeah,
but not for anything with
It's
my
been
miniatures.
a long time ago since the last time I used it. It last if I had
Have
it
you-
dried up. Bad GS. Huh.
I use those Mod Podge brushes.
Have
Actually,
you used
not the Mod
those
Podge.
yet?
I did. I've used 3 of them, and the update is looking very promising. They're actually for cheap brushes at the top. They're at the absolute
Wow.
top, and yeah, no, they're really good.
Okay, good to
See,
know.
Jesse is in the house. He says, "Hello, all. Just made it back home from Game Castle. Just eating some chicken nuggets.
All right.
That's awesome.
Built some Slaves to Darkness stuff, and he's starting to
Nice.
build a Slaves to Darkness Age of Sigmar army.
Sweet.
Oh, cool. Fun times.
I got
And
those, Chris. Those that link. Thank you very much.
for the 3D printed rollers.
Yeah.
Well, you can send
Oh,
them to
okay.
me too.
Good heads up.
Brad is in the house. Awesome, Chris. I would like that. Hey, Brad. Ooh, there's more. Hey, there's more. Fabric drop cloth for painting works awesome. Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Let's see. Fabric cloth sounds like a good idea. Yeah. And you can pick it up here, there, everywhere.
Wondering how many fingers of this brandy pour is a Tim evening pour.
Oh no. I don't know, but they were delivered to me in shot glasses. It didn't last very long.
Well, that evening was shot.
Yes, yes, literally.
I don't know.
Speaking of Napoleonic games, yes. Jesse and I are thinking about getting into Napoleonics, the Warlord games, 13.5 mil stuff.
Epic, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's like I just went and watched the
Napoleon movie.
Napoleon movie.
Yeah. What'd you
If
think?
if you cut out all the love crap, it's not a bad movie.
Spoken like a true man.
Yeah, right. Not here for all that.
It's like I came for the battles and they was not enough. So
That's
After
what
you
people
told me about it, I've not heard good things, and
yeah.
so I didn't go watch it. I decided maybe it's a Netflix show.
Yeah, I'll catch it some other time. That's
Which is sad because nobody's going to the theaters, and that's going to affect movies. You know what I mean? Like it's going to affect, and so in
Well-
some ways, I want to see it, but I'm going to go see the Godzilla movie. I've already made plans when it comes out to see the Godzilla -1 or whatever it's called. That actually looks good.
The
okay.
local AMC movie chain went out of business here. So closed its doors.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, and it's not just the theaters, which the theaters are important, but it's also the studios are just the way they make movies is being affected, like by people not going.
Put a washer in it. Yes, definitely, or like a half dozen washers.
yeah.
Fish weights, that too. I have plenty of fish weights, which I've done before. I'll take out the big the hammer and lay them out and go flatten them out.
Yeah.
And then glue them. And they glue them to something that works good too.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Looks like we got a nerds in the house. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, Armor Cast.
And Mini Wormut. Hello.
Oh, mini walnut mutt. Oh, cool.
I had the Warhound way back in the day. Oh yeah, that was a funky looking Warhound.
One of my favorite Eldar models is the Armor Cast Eldar Knight.
Yes.
Have you guys ever seen that? It's so cool looking. It's gone. I don't really make it anything like it anymore, but man, it was such a cool looking model.
How many good stories start with by the time I got back from the barracks?
Yeah.
And I don't remember her name.
And did it really matter?
Yeah.
What's in a
I
name?
hear it was Brandy.
Her name was Brandy.
I knew a Brandy in college. Yeah.
I'm working on some Conquest Nords. Hello. I have a tournament on Saturday for it. Okay.
Oh.
Only 38 minutes. Minis is historically. 38 minutes of it is historically accurate, apparent to historians. The time to. Yeah, I would say so, because so much of that movie is wrapped around the love story, which. How can you determine how much of that's true or not? So,
I don't
You're skeptic.
know. It's just
You're skeptical.
yeah.
Yeah. What is up with that?
Well, I went to it expecting to see a lot of Napoleonic battles and excitement because, Napoleon, he's known for being his battles. And then it's like, what's this?
Yeah, that was kind of how it was advertised, actually. But
Yeah.
Yeah, because they showed that scene. I think one of the coolest scenes that stood out to me is when they showed on the ice, like when they tricked them to going on the lake.
like at Austerlitz, where they
Yep. And it's like that's all the advertising you see for it was Austerlitz, and you're like, okay, this is going to be cool. I'm looking forward to seeing this movie, and then you go see it and go, what's this? Why am I constantly being barraged with a love story? I don't give a crap about this at all. I'm a guy. So.
Oh my.
It's like, do you know the artist that does all the historical Don Troiani?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't mince any words, and he said this was the most worthless movie he's ever watched.
Oh my, that's some harsh criticism.
That would be hard to believe.
From a source too. Yeah.
Let me see if I can. My friend Scott, who pops in here every once in a while, he sent me. Let me find it here. A few people have asked what I thought about the new Napoleonic movie. I went to see it tonight, and I would rate it as possibly the worst putrid historical garbage I ever had to sit through. And I'm being kind here.
Wow.
So it was Ridley Scott, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unfortunate because you know, like I do have movies that I like of his. You know,
Yeah, he does some good movies.
Yeah, and like Alien, right?
Yeah, he does the aliens.
Like Alien, like one of my favorite movies ever. You know, but then his first movie. Have you guys ever seen The Duelists?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, even though it also has a love story component, but I would actually say that the primary relationship of the movie is this antagonistic relationship between the two hussars, you know, that are dueling throughout history. Like they're dueling throughout time, like, you know, their lives. And I thought for his kind of like one of his first movies, if not his first movie, and I only purchased it in the last 2 years and watched it in the last 2 years. I did not see it until recently. And I actually kind of liked it. And so I don't know. It's kind of sad in some ways because he's a good director in many cases. You know, not having seen it, you know, I still have to watch it. But I believe what you're saying. You know, and that's what a lot of the popular opinion is. But it is unfortunate. So it was a good missed opportunity.
Yeah, it was a great missed opportunity for a really awesome historical movie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
with a great lead, right?
Yeah. No, it's
did he do a good job?
Oh yeah, he did a great job acting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing about the whole movie I really liked was that he did a good job of acting because he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, and I really appreciate what he did in it, but there was not enough to outweigh how I felt about.
Not enough battles.
Yes. I'm an action guy. It's like
yeah.
It was like if I wanted to go watch a Hallmark movie, I just go sit with my wife.
Oh gosh, that hits too close to home.
Yeah. I'm not. It's like no, that's. I just consider that drivel to me, but you know.
Yeah.
Say here, Jesse just said the AMC in Johnston, Iowa closed on Monday. I was sad. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh God, who let the mutt in? Who met the love? Him charging on horseback at Waterloo was what? Yeah, exactly.
Like, I heard that part and I went, I don't think he ever did that.
No, it's like I'm like, well, they made it. Okay,
but it's possible.
All right. In an alternate dimension, he did charge on horseback and won the battle by rallying all the troops, and the old guard crushed the British and turned around, flipped the flank around, and enveloped the Prussians as they're coming in and obliterated them in place, just like what happened to the Romans.
Wow. Yeah,
you believe that, right?
Oh, sure. I'm right with you.
Yeah. So he was an inspiring warrior on horseback. Yeah. So there was a lot of let's just say stuff that happened in the movie that was like, okay, all right. It's like I remember reading a lot of stuff about because my friend Scott that hops on here every once in a while, we were big into Napoleonics back in the day, and we read a lot of the books and everything. He was a huge Napoleon historic type reader.
Yeah. And by Scott, he doesn't mean Ridley Scott.
No, I don't think Ridley Scott read anything about the other than it's like, hey, this would be a cool backdrop for a cool movie. And it's like, let's bring in the historians make sure we get this right. We don't need these guys.
We can do this.
Yeah, you don't need historians when you're just writing a love story.
Yeah, exactly. They got the Hallmark Channel writers over there and put it together. And then one of the unfortunate thing is that one of the Hallmark Channel writers actually read a few historical books, and that's how we got some of those battles in there. They snuck them in.
Why don't we do some rapid fire comments and then we'll get to our first topic?
On the trenches at Waterloo. Yeah. Okay. Wag. The scope of the movie was too large. Singling on a single fight or an aspect of Napoleon's life would have been better. Yeah. He was so sick at Waterloo that he could barely move. I removed all the Hallmark channels from our YouTube TV and told the wife that YouTube TV discontinued Hallmark channels. That's evil. I like it. But she caught me when she wanted to see if there were any other channels, so added YouTube. Don't. Caught. Yeah. My lazy boy is so very comfortable. Wink, wink, wink. Yeah. All right, we're caught up with all the comments.
So why don't we introduce the turning point topic?
Oh, yes. Turning points.
Turning points. Yeah.
This is your topic there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I ordered some stuff from Warlord Games, and sometimes when I'm wanting to just like add a few things, I'll get a War Games Illustrated magazine.
Yep.
Little eye candy, little light reading, and I got some old ones. And then one of the articles was about turning points. And I read the article and what the author thought about it. And it was kind of interesting because he revolved it around our hobby and our gaming, but he also expanded out a little bit. And so I really went down the rabbit hole this week with turning points. So I'm going to constrict it right back because I can go way off on this topic because turning points exist everywhere and at a variety of scales. And so we need to break this down to our hobby. And so I was thinking about it, like even in this game that I've got going on behind me. If I was playing another opponent on this table, everything from our decision of the game could be considered a turning point. What rule system we're going to use, what base sizes, what scale, all those things factor in. But when I think about turning points as far as the actual game, it's like, I think of it like investing. Okay, like pennies to nickels to dimes to quarters to half dollars. Okay, so we have varying sizes of turning points. The way he described it in the article, it's over there. I should get it and give the guy's name. He described it like everything from the guy, tying his boots and doing everything right. You can do all your training the right way, feed, clothe, house your troops, all that kind of stuff. All that is like your penny and nickel size turning points. Because if you don't do enough of that stuff, they become large turning points, detrimental types. And I don't know, I started thinking about games and stuff like that. And it's like, when we're putting together a force and we're going to play an actual other, like in Warhammer Fantasy with your Beastmen. And like the opponent beforehand, like you're going to play an Empire player or a Chaos Warrior player. Knowing that will change your tactics and your decision, correct? And your deployment at times. So we invest in these units, like your unit of Minotaurs. I was a big fan of those when I had my Beastman army. I loved a unit of 6 with extra hand weapons and full command, dice and slice, and let's go. Well, anyway, say I invest my points in that unit. Okay. Well, my opponent, for whatever army, say Chaos Warriors, he's got his chosen unit on foot, kind of looks apples to apples sort of a thing. And he's invested his points in that unit. So they clash upon the table with this investment in points and time and energy and painting and assembly. All that goes into this calculation. And so the turning point can be decisively positive or decisively detrimental, depending on whether you win or lose. And the idea of the turning point is that there has to be such a loss that it changes the tactical and strategy decisions of one of the opponents. Now, can you have a Pyrrhic victory? Yes. I can spend so much in winning this one combat that now my great unit that I was relying on for this game is no longer viable. It's still on the table. It won, but now it's spent. It's useless. So even though with victory it becomes a detriment of a turning point for me, even with victory. So it's kind of one of those things where it's our investment in it, our value system of this entity that we're placing in contrast with the other guy, our two units clashing together. And it could be that, man, I throw up, like when I played Skaven, throw up a big horde of Skaven at something that they have invested all that time, and it just sits there all day just trying to hack through 50 Skaven, you know. And well, there's a turning point right there, because all that money, time, effort, the points spent to get it on the table have now turned against them because it can't do the thing you need it to do because it's locked up. Those turning points within our game, within our hobby, they're the great part of our game. Whatever game you're playing, that where you get to that point where if I lose this, my whole strategies have got to change then. But if I win, I may be able to continue with this strategy, with this seeking this outcome this way. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I went down this rabbit hole of turning points, and I was thinking about it in all our personal lives. We can look at it and go, oh, that's where I made that choice, and that's why I can't buy that army because I went to the casino and I lost $500, and now I can't do this thing that I really wanted to do. So there was a turning point in your own personal life. But on the gaming table, it's about our troops, our value system, the game itself, our deployment, all those things. I just find it fascinating that when you lay it out. And what I'd like to know is, like, I've had some examples where I was playing a friend of mine who had an empire, and we were playing my beastmen. And I got the first turn, and is it 6th edition where they got the extra movement? The beastmen got the surge forward or something. Is that's the edition?
Well, what I can tell you is this: is that from Ravening Hordes in the start of 6th edition, before they actually released the army book, they actually had 4-inch movement, but then in 6th edition army book they had 5-inch movement, so that made their march 10 inches from 8 inches. But then they also got their ambush, right? Which they didn't have before. They had the ambush after Ravening Hordes, and so where you could mix Ungors and Gors together and stuff.
Right. I love that. I thought that was a really crafty sort of addition to the game, especially for beastmen. The way you had the weaker ones out of the way and put your tough ones up front, and well, anyway,
no, exactly.
My experience with that is I was playing my opponent who had an empire army, and I got that first move off, and I got some movement stuff happening, and I really thought I had him on the back foot. I thought I'm gonna just roll over this. From the moment at the end of my movement phase of that first turn, it went downhill from there. He had a unit of great swords that somehow it wiped out my Minotaurs. It came right down the line, just one right after the other, and it's like, you got to be kidding me.
Great swords. They slice and dice, and they even make Minotaur fries.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. It's so funny that I invested all that energy and all my thought, and I'm going to do this tactic. I'm going to do this thing. And it appeared at first to be very successful. I was all set up, and boom, boom. And the next thing you know, I was just trying not to get tabled. My whole energy of what I was seeking to accomplish turned on a dime. Just,
well, and a lot of that can happen quick in Warhammer Fantasy battles.
oh yeah,
you know, like, because it's, you mean, not just your opponent determining that your plan's not going to go the way you thought it was, but also the dice, and then like many other things. Like, you know, like it just that's part of the fun of it. And you know, not to get off the topic of turning points, because I think it's an interesting topic, but you know, essentially, like when my beastmen don't come in and raid the way I wanted them to, like if they don't make their leadership and they start coming in at other places on the board, that's part of the fun of the narrative. Like that's what I really like. Like that's where, you know, you just kind of deal with it, and you just kind of joke about like, well, now they're over here, like because they just decided not to come in like the way, you know, he said, and then it becomes more fun actually. Like in some ways, it becomes more fun. But when I first heard of the topic, you know, like I kind of had it in my own head, like what we were talking about, and I don't think it's unapplicable, you know, like what I was thinking about, because I think you've described it in a fairly broad sense. Like you've described like turning points in like multiple ways. You know what I mean? Like you've talked about it, like, you know, like not
I'm sorry. I went down a rabbit hole this week when I read
well,
that.
I didn't want to be disrespectful because
everywhere.
I didn't want to be disrespectful because you actually were very eloquent in the way you talked about it in a broad sense. But I was going to say, like, we might need to all take a little bit of acid now as we answer, because we're going to just kind of like take a trip, you know, and and basically talk about what turning points mean to you.
It's deep,
but I think it is actually an interesting subject, and I think you did do it justice in the way you opened it, Tim. All I was going to say is, like, I've said some of the same things over and over because, like, I think we oftentimes rely on our experiences, and I've talked about how Star Wars Armada, for me, at a very basic level, in naval battle or space naval battle, there's this point in the game that I'd recognized as a turning point, or at least a point of friction. And I don't know if, like, using the word friction, where like you and your opponent have the most friction, is a turning point in a way or not. I don't know if that's correct, but like when making like a naval decision, like you're kind of at long range trying to figure out how you're going to set yourself up best for that moment. And because there's a moment where you're approaching, there's a moment where you're there, and then there's a moment where it's past, and like you're trying to do stuff at the end of it afterwards to salvage or secure your situation. And in Star Wars Armada, it's very much like that. And I've always noticed that, when is it going to be? Is it going to be turn 3 or 4? Like, when is that moment going to be? And I know when it's there, and I know when it's starting to end. And like that is very much a turning point in the game. Like, who got the salvos and whose plan, both movement and everything else. Because there's also like plans on your strategies in Star Wars Armada, like whether you've invested your, you know, more in like assault for ships, or like more of like, you know, like sending out squadrons and like things like that. Like, you know, where did it work out or not, and things like that. And then how do I, there's usually a little bit of time, like one turn, the next turn, like you can do a little bit to try to salvage, or a little bit to try to protect your situation if you did better at the turning point. And so that's kind of what came to mind for me. But then I thought to myself, like, that's a naval game. But then there are other games I play, like Sharp's Practice, where you have like morale is a really big deal, like army morale, and it can be like an infinity, like, you know, when you lose like 50% of your models, like you can start to retreat, and or like things become harder once in certain games you get to a certain point of loss. And so is that a turning point, like where all of a sudden like the 50% number is reached within your army and your opponent hasn't reached it,
That's that point where you had a strategy, and like I said, it can be maybe what was that phrase, death by 1,000 cuts. You've kind of lost this one thing. It's not going to lose you the game, but it might make you rethink your next few moves, where you had this grand strategy, and all of a sudden you start losing this and you start losing, and then the game's not over, but you start to feel that change, and a change in the way you're approaching the game. And then the next phase will be, okay, I've went from being my aggressive natural self. Now I got to try to, I'm juggling, trying
to, what can I do to salvage?
What am I going to do now to salvage everything? Yeah. And naval games are quite like that, because naval games to me remind me a lot of like a high level vision of stress, of chess, because you're thinking of your ship's movement, your opponent's ship's movement, and possible reactions to where you're going to be at a certain stage in the game. Now, sailing ships different than motorized, nuclear subs and that kind of stuff, but that same sort of process, that you got to turn and kind of pick where you're going to be. I would think that those turning points would be one of those it would happen, and you're like, oh, it dawns on you almost after the fact.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling it approach, it's almost like you look behind you. Oh, that's when it happened.
And it may even be like in a game like that, because I hate to admit it, I've been like looking at naval games lately, and I've been resisting both motorized and non-motorized, and I've been watching battle reports of some warlord games of both motorized and non-motorized ships, and like you could have like the wind can turn, and like you could have a game where all of a sudden there's an esoteric force that's against you, and in the naval game it could be the wind in a sailing game, where all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm fighting an uphill battle now, not because of anything that I've done, but it's just the reality of what's happening. Like, you can't control the weather, and the reality is, I'm at a disadvantage right now, like and for the foreseeable couple of turns. And that could be it. And then the last thing that came to my mind was skirmish games, because as a thinking about like this stuff, it can be quite different when you're playing a game when you only have like 6 models, and like it's like a Mordheim or something like that, and maybe the turning point is that there are a number of objectives, and like a lot of these scenarios, one of them is more central, and where like you both have like kind of access to like closer objectives to you, that you can get. Sometimes getting that central objective that makes it no longer a tie is sort of like a turning point. Like, now they've got possession of that middle table objective, or something like that, or that third objective, when there's 5. And so like that could be a turning point. It could be more about a capture kind of situation, So yeah, like that's all I really had to think about it, but it sounds like there's probably a lot more to it in a broader sense.
And I think we're saying the same thing, that we're either player gets to a point where they have to change their tactics and their strategies now because of this occurrence, whatever it was in whatever game. Like I used to like the original Kill Team when it first came out.
Oh yeah, I played that original.
I used to love that game, and I noticed that like with different opponents, if you took out maybe 1 or 2 of their high-priced models, like some, let's see, what was it, Harlequins? They could bring like 5 of those, and they were just like so fast across the table, and they were wicked in hand to hand. But if you could get 1 or 2 of them before they could get to you, all of a sudden it became a completely different thing for them.
Yeah.
Completely different strategy, a completely different tactic. And I think that's where that we're saying the same thing, that there's that moment when one player or the other, regardless of whether it was a positive occurrence that's turned bad for you or just flat out, got slobber knocked, something's got to change. This is where it is. And what's interesting to me about turning points is that the next one that occurs lends value to the previous one, the next turning point, because it validates everything that happened prior to. And that sort of symbiotic relationship between something that happens here and something that happens later, they're connected somehow in that, like these invisible strings. You sit back, and once you analyze the game, you go, yeah, that led to this, and then I did this, and it's like, that's where it went awry.
In a lot of cases, we're talking about turning points from the loser's perspective, because I think that's where it could be most meaningful. Because like when you're actually the winning side and you're doing everything right and you've passed the turning point, like you're just, like wanting more of the same. Like that's what you're hoping for.
Yeah, your strategy and tactics don't really change that much.
Yeah. So when you're talking about it from the loser's perspective, what I think of sometimes, and not in all situations, but sometimes a turning point can mean you need to take a risk that you normally wouldn't take, that can expose you, but could have a big payoff. And
you're forced into that kind of decision making because of that occurrence before. You've changed from a normal set of strategies and tactics, and now I got to go for the Hail Mary. It's 4th and 12. There's 10 seconds left on the clock, and we're down by 6. We got to go for it. Got to throw the Hail Mary. Here it comes. And sometimes you find yourself on the table going, I'm going to throw this unit at this thing. If I get lucky with the dice, I can salvage this. I can salvage this turn and reestablish some equilibrium within the game. And I think you're absolutely correct that you can find yourself in that position to where you've got to throw caution to the wind and throw whatever characters you need to, whatever magical spells or what to achieve that goal.
Well, you might have to take what you have to deem as an acceptable risk in order, like where you might not accept that risk and when it's equal, when you're on equal footing, but you might have to take that risk. Dan and Rusty, turning points. What are your guys' thoughts on the discussion so far?
Well, sometimes it's like you were talking about fantasy, where I had one game where I was getting my butt handed to me. Nothing was playing out against some dwarves. It was my undead army back before the advent when they split the armies. I was playing my guys, and they were just getting waffle stomped, pushed back, had no break in here and there. And I had one shot left, and I fired off my Screaming Skull catapult, if you remember that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And you probably know where it's going to happen next. It's like the game's done. So I fired my Screaming Skull catapult, hit their main unit, and they failed their leadership test and broke. And it's back then in that edition, it's like if a unit broke next to it, then you had to make
within 12 inches.
Leadership test for everybody.
Leadership test. And the next thing was the entire dwarven army to a T. He was failing. When it's like you're talking dwarves here that had high leadership.
Leadership 9 and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Every single unit, every time he rolled for it, they broke. And I went from getting tabled to winning.
Warhammer Fantasy Battle.
Like, oh my God.
God bless the Skelly.
That's what I like about it.
Yes. Like, almost didn't bring that thing.
But
Wow.
it's tough to be on the reverse side of it too, though.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I have been on that where Beastman again. I'm playing a Lizard Man player. Now we all remember how tough the Lizard Men were with that 3 dice 6 leadership thing.
Yeah.
I was able to charge a unit of Saurus Warriors in the front and both flanks. I had my great weapon Minotaurs to the front, and I had extra hand weapon Minotaurs in the flanks. Now we're a good sized unit of Lizardmen, but they were toughness 4, had that high leadership, could do some damage back. They literally, I had it all. It was right there for the taking. They killed all 3 of my units.
Yeah.
And they may have had like 4 or 5 guys left, but I lost. I lost. I think let's say there have been 6. There was 12 Minotaurs there, and I lost all 12 of them in one combat. I mean, it went on for a few turns, but it was horrible. That leadership, and it was like, again, that was the turning point in the game. I had everything set up the way I wanted to. I had them exactly where I wanted them to be, doing exactly what I wanted them to do, and they got stomped. It's like the dice gods hated me that day for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's one of those things where you look at it, you go, well, there was the game right there. His decision to create that unit, to put that unit where he did, to put it in harm's way. He knew I was going to go after it. It was too tempting of a target. But between their
I like
armor,
games though.
His
One of
dice
the
are
things I like,
broken.
this is nor here nor there, but one of the things I like about Warhammer Fantasy Battle in the version I play, at least, because I haven't played all of them. I like games that, and I know tournament players hate this, but I like games that, for the most part, just because you like brought the list that should beat that other army, like that things can change because of the dice, and that you can actually have to deal with something and it doesn't always go your way. Like to me, that sort of randomness is the fun part of it being a game. Like, some folks don't like games where the statistical odds don't always work out in the way you would predict, like they would rather you be able to go in, and because of your generalship and just the way you made your list, you would win. But like, I like that the dice foil your plans and that it have an unpredictable factor. I think it's more fun, to be honest.
Do you like asymmetrical games where you're not trying to do like bringing a list of? I used to love bringing the weakest list I could.
Oh, you still there?
There he is.
Okay, you broke up there for a second.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, you froze up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes I just bring the weakest things I could possibly put together to have the game, like you're saying. Because that would eventually throw opponents off, as they would go like, well, now what am I supposed? I'm expecting to do this, but then I bring this, and it's like, well, it's like punching a jar of big old bag of mayonnaise. It's like I'm not making headway here. Like with skeletons and stuff. You bring great big, they just
they swallow.
Just don't have enough bullets. Don't have enough.
Well, I think it's a bit of a tricky question when you ask me whether I like asymmetrical games, because unless I play chess with my daughter, there's very few games that I play that are symmetrical. Like everything I play tabletop wise is asymmetrical. You know what I mean? In the sense that they're different armies with different lists.
Right.
And so, but I think maybe what you're saying is not that. Do you like games that are lopsided, kind of a little bit, like
and I don't always like having the upper hand in those. I would find that very. That's why I don't. I've been to tournaments before with it, or I've taken lists like that, I never
Yeah.
found it very appealing as far as being in the tournament scene and stuff. I never,
Yeah.
to me, it was almost like they expect you to bring this A list because that's what you should bring. It's like, okay. If you don't, then I remember taking a list one time and I had people that were playing undead. They were horrified. They said, "Well, how are we going to score points at this?" Because it was all
The
point
undead
based.
people were horrified.
They were horrified at not being able to score points in the tournament.
They're really horrified if they're playing undead and they're horrified.
Yeah, it was like they were very upset at that, and because it was what was the term they used to use? Something denial, something points denial list or something like that, where they were the units were so large that they didn't have enough attacks, enough bullets basically to do enough damage to score enough points to make it worthwhile to make their effort. So because it was always like so many points per game that you garner and stuff like that for destroyed units and stuff. I was never really interested in that sort of stuff, but yeah, that was you wanted to tweak somebody's nose, go to make a list where they can't score points, and that was like horrifying for them because I'm going to lose because I can't score points against your list.
Dan, you've played some tournaments in like bolt action and stuff, and I know you occasionally have done stuff like that. And like, what comes to mind when you think about this topic?
Well, kind of just about the tournament. First of all, just not discussing necessarily the turning point thing, but the tournaments that I've gone to for bolt action are always enjoyable. But there's usually two kinds of players there. Almost you can completely divide them into two groups. There's the ones that are there that love the modeling, they love the history of it. Their lists are very historical that they built, and some of them will even have a printout of like, this is some specific unit or battle, and they modeled it after that. I mean, it's really, it's geeked out completely, but it's awesome. And then they know the rules really well, and they just enjoy playing the game. And then you got the guys that are wanting it to be like chess, that basically everything's an if-then statement. If every one of their units has a purpose. It's very well choreographed how it works. There's almost no army that they don't know how to match up with. Almost any threat that they know how to deal with. The only thing usually that betrays them is if they're matched up another player that also has that same mindset. They get into a bit of a dog, then that's a tough battle. Or if the dice, you have a turning point where the dice betray them at some point, and then that it gets them to a point where they can't come back from that. But when you just brought up, when I just read the topic of turning points, and it kind of feels to me like, to sum up, maybe not completely, but kind of some of the things that Tim's trying to say is, it's basically like momentum shifts. When the momentum shifts in a game, why was it, and how does that determine the rest of the game? How does that in bolt action terms, for me, a lot of times it comes down to like at deployment. It's like, because a lot of times in the games all your units don't start on the board. You have your first wave, and then you've got your reserves, and then you might have some outflankers, but even just having the reserves, it's like you're usually placing, even if you place them all on the board, you're a lot of times placing them by drawing dice out of the bag. And so maybe, finally you're like, okay, my veteran unit in my NCO or my heavy armor, you're kind of waiting because you want to see where the other guy puts his. And so then sometimes you're even forced to put it somewhere before, and then it's like, yep, that's completely out of position to do what I'm going to want it to do. And, and so it really, then you're on your back foot, or not even necessarily on your back foot, but then you have to completely remodify your plan of what you're going to do for the game. or it can be too where all of a sudden things are going well, and the guy rolls a 6 on his heavy mortar. Your guys are running across the field. He's got to roll a 6 to hit you, and
And he rolls the
sure
6.
enough, he did, and it destroys the entire unit right there. And those are definitely turning points and shifts in momentum. But in a good game, I always think that doesn't put you out of it. So you get enough of those that obviously then it's tough to come back. But
Right.
I'm with you, Palmer. I like the randomness. I mean, real life's like that. You can't control, even a general. You can't control exactly what every one of your guys is going to do and how they're going to respond to things that you don't even know. You always got the fog of war and
the weather and
the equipment breakdowns and just bad judgment, bad lighting, whatever the scenario. So I like it to do that. And when I play a game, I almost feel like I'm trying to kind of control what they do, but I'm almost watching it just unfold. I don't know if it's just perspective or if it's because I don't think that's not how I like to game. They're not just game pieces, and it's all reduced to inches and die rolls and probabilities, or if it's just because that's how I like it to play. I mean, I like to kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
How does the story write itself? You're like narrating and kind of controlling. It's like when you wake up from a dream. I don't know if you've ever done that, and you kind of don't wake up all the way, and you go back to sleep, and you're like, I'm going to go back to that dream. And you can sometimes make choices what happened in your dreams. Even I have.
Yeah.
Not often, but so it's like that. It's like you're half in control, and I like that in a game.
I think they call that. I think the kids call that lucid dreaming. Isn't that?
I don't know.
Lucid eyes out there.
Yeah, that's probably it. I don't know what the kids these days say.
I'm not going to say anything.
Lucid dreaming. We always did that back in the day.
I'm not getting involved in that topic.
You'll have more marriage stories. That's fine.
No, it's funny. Like I would love to say that I only play for the narrative, and that like when I play Warhammer Fantasy Battle, all I want to do is just see how the game like unfolds. And because I actually respect what you're saying, Dan, and I think that that's part of like the fun, like actually seeing the narrative. Like I completely am with you on the story part and like enjoying that part of the game and actually having fun because of it. Having said that, in a head-to-head Warhammer Fantasy Battle, I still want to do my best to try to win.
Yeah,
like
I'm not saying I don't.
No, and I know what you're saying. But what I will do is there's sort of like when I approach a game, there's like particularly Warhammer Fantasy Battle when we're talking about that is I try to do my best to win in a head-to-head. Not even scenario driven, just like army versus army battle. Like I try to win.
Yeah, just a straight up fight.
But then at every point in the way, I try to recognize the story despite that's developing. And then I try to laugh. Like Warhammer Fantasy Battle has a lot of that. Like I play a lot of orcs and goblins.
And that's just like a wild party.
The animosity and
unpredictable as heck.
Well, and even like the what is it? The night goblins with the ball and the chains, like the
fanatics.
Fanatics, like between the fanatics and the animosity and like
stupidity and animosity and
even their magic and stuff. Like there's just so much that happens. And then with my guys, whether like with the ambushing, and then my guys now in 6th edition, they have what do they call it? I forget the name of it, but basically it's like disorder. It's something. I think the name is something like whether they're out of order or not, but basically my guys have to rush to charge. Certain units have to rush to charge if I roll a 1 on a 6. Yeah, like they just basically they're not frenzied, but they
like
that's a totally different thing.
Something or okay,
it isn't. It's something like it's something to do with order or something like that. There's a name for it. I just forget because but you have to do the same thing as animosity. Like you have to roll a die, and if you roll like a 1, then you're basically going after whoever's closest. And so so there's a lot of that makes it fun, and a story that's built up throughout it.
Right.
But that's funny how you characterize everybody within two camps. I thought that was kind of funny.
And it really, I mean, there's a range within each camp, but you really feel like that's kind of what it is. And they're basically, because they're what they enjoy from the hobby, and that's totally fair. And I that's great. What they love from the hobby is a different thing. You know, some of them more love the modeling or the history, and then some of them love the competition or the gaming or trying to build this list and, you know, kind of min-max the best. And then not if it's within the rules, I don't mind at all. I like the historical side, so I tend not to build lists that aren't pretty historically, you know, realistic to some extent. And then it seems like, I guess I'll play too sometimes to the competitiveness of my opponent. You know, it's like, because I mean, I'm competitive, you know, like most people. You know, if then they start getting competitive, or they get a little gloaty or something, or you know, then it's like, okay,
so that's how we're gonna play it. Okay,
now we're gonna bring it. But you know, I don't change my list or anything. But
I'm gonna step up my game a bit here, though.
Yeah, well, like Mark, that I've gamed with historically the most with bolt action, we have like the same mindset. So we, and that's what's fun too. Like after the game, we will talk about essentially the turning points of the game. Like, man, where you couldn't pass that order check on some veterans that just had one pin for 2 turns in a row. You know, they sat there and did nothing in a 6-turn game, and or whether you had to roll it to see if there was a 7th turn and there was or wasn't. That can lose you a game right there.
Well, you look at our last bolt action game we played where my Russians, I couldn't get any of my equipment on the board.
Yeah, you couldn't. Your tank was off the board forever.
I think it was like turn 4 before he even showed up. Like,
yeah, you had a lot of points that wouldn't come on the board. Well, my army was pretty scary.
Clark had a number of points. Before we go on, I think that like we've all kind of talked on this, and Clark has some points on the turning points too. I kind of wondered maybe we should do his comments, and then we could think about the next topic.
Critical thinking about your decisions in the game help find those turning points, which then lets you determine errors and how to overcome them in the future. Yeah, that's like what we always like to do. For anybody that's been in the military, AARs, you know, like after action review, you sit there and you're looking at what the heck did I did wrong?
Yeah, what went wrong? What went right?
What can I change maybe that I'm doing that can change in the future? Now, you can't change dice rolls. That's just one thing. But, you know, it's like my decision making and circumstances can help. I started keeping a notebook to write notes about some of my games to try and remember these type of things. Yeah, that's a good idea, is writing things down. So I think the turning point is a decision to take place before the critical events take place. It's like, if you have the notes and you're thinking, it's like, all right, this circumstance is coming up. How can I do things to make sure that they go into my favor? The decisive kill of a unit or capturing an objective. As a skilled player will pick up on the turning points decision and capitalize on it. So the critical event is almost a foregone conclusion. Yeah, there have been some games where I've done that, but it's like I was playing a game where it was the American Civil War, and I was rolling up the rebels really hard. I was playing the Yanks, and it was a foregone conclusion. This game was over. They knew the game was over until he made the last barrage with his artillery and kind of swept the field. It was that grape shot again. Bad stuff. It's like, was trying to capture the guns. Bad mistake. But
So
there are
go ahead.
Now, say there's turning points. It's like I just think of like in, let's say, BattleTech, because we haven't drank enough yet lately. Having a capital 2 assault mechs going down on the same turn to headshots. You can't overcome that. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like,
Unless you have 12 mechs in the big games you play.
oh yeah, there's that. Too.
Yeah. Bring it, right.
I know, but I hear what you're saying. So our next topic, which we've been really bad, like actually one of the fun things about the show is that we do kind of just hang out and we talk about a lot of things besides our topics, and I actually find that that's one of the funnest parts. But lately, we in recent history, we've not really aimed and finished the topics that we set out to do, and we do have
What
the
are you trying to say,
opportunity. I
Wolf?
think.
I thought it was
do
more
think
of
we
a
have the
suggestion.
my understanding of the directive is that this was just an option.
Exactly. There was
so
some dead air.
yeah, you can ask Rusty. When I first started this show, I was really like, we were like, okay, this is the way it has to happen.
But this time we're gonna, no matter
Gonna
what,
have a
we're gonna
format. You
change
gotta
that.
have a format. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not feeling comfortable with this. I guess our other topic, we have an opportunity to do another interesting topic. And Rusty, probably this was your idea, but it was regarding game store purchasing versus online purchasing. Is that correct?
Correct.
And how would you? Was there any other further elaboration you wanted to mention?
Well,
in that?
which one do you tend to do more of? Are you always looking for the? Are you avoiding buying anything in the game store? Are you supporting your game store? You know, that type of thing. I see you breaking out the brandy.
Looking Glass, Brandy, very good song. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow.
Brandy.
Wow.
That is deep. Jeez.
Here's to Looking Glass. So I'm not going to do this. Well, actually, I guess I did my update first. I didn't do topic first, but all right. Well, I'll actually take a bite at that one. You know, I think it's almost sacrilegious, like in wargaming circles, to say like that you're going to order from somewhere other than your local gaming store and order online. And yet there's all these online places that absolutely exist and are doing really well. And so folks obviously are buying from them, just not maybe admitting fully to it, or at least publicly. Because like, I don't know if you guys disagree with me, but that does, like, I actually don't disagree with that, and that I do think supporting local in the place where you play your games is important. Like, I'm not saying that isn't the case. I try to buy at my local gaming store first, and I buy, despite price, I always buy my paint and like my consumables at my local gaming store.
Yep.
Having said that, and there's a convenience factor, there's a selfish factor, and then there's also just like, I like to go there and I like to support the store too, and because I can play games there and stuff like that, and they've got overhead and they're local and stuff. But like, I've had times where I've seen differences up to as high as 30% difference, like, you know, in price or higher, like, you know, at a local store compared to online. And there are times when, you know, like, you have to also follow economics too. Like, you have to basically sometimes do what's right for your wallet, you know, and, you know, like, I guess the question is sometimes like, how much more are you willing to spend? Because there is a dollar amount that I'm willing to spend to use their facilities, like, you know, and to like play at the place and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then how much, when is that point? When is the turning point?
Whoa.
When
that's what causes the store to go out of business.
Everywhere.
That came to my mind.
A whole chain of events in that.
When is the turning point when it's no longer like, you know, when like really I feel justified and spending less money and getting more for my money? Like, because sometimes like I can literally get a couple of boxes of units in addition to something, like, you know, because of that 30% difference. You know, I was talking about a starter army. So like, if you're talking about a huge purchase, like a starter army box, you might actually be able to buy a tank and this and like another blister, like at the online location for the same price as the starter army, with just in that alone, like at your local gaming store, you know. And so you have to ask yourself, where that difference is. And so that's kind of what it comes down to. So I buy both. Like I spend money in both places. And then, like sometimes, like I had one situation, and I don't know why this annoys me, but like when I was wanting to paint these guys up that I showed on my channel, like these knights, like the Chaos Warriors, and I was using the speed painting. I went down there and I had to change my strategy like several times based on availability. Like I went down there and I was going to buy GW contrast paints instead of Army Painter speed paints. And I was like, I'm going to do the contrast paints, and these are the paints I want to buy. These few 4 or 5 paints. I go down there. They have a huge selection. Like it's not that they don't have selection, but every one I wanted, like the popular ones, and like every one I wanted, they didn't have. And then I said, you know what? On the spot, change of strategy, turning point, need to make another decision now because I need to do this project. And now they don't have any of the paints. I've got a time crunch, so I'm going to switch to a different brand. So I'm going to buy the Army Painter. By the way, Von Kettering just said hello. Thanks for stopping, Fraser. Always great to see you stop in. I appreciate your morning coffee. Hello. I love that. And so I have to change my strategy. I have to now go with Army Painter speed paints and instead of GW contrast paints. So let me buy the box I was looking for online, Amazon. Let me buy it here. Guess what? They have some stuff, but they don't have it. And so then again, they didn't have either option for me. So what do you think I did? I went home and I bought the Army Painter speed paints with Amazon.
Yeah.
And so, and I was annoyed.
You don't have to use Amazon.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like, oh gosh, that's a whole nother subject, I guess.
Yeah, I won't go down that one.
Yeah, but that was annoying, right? Like that was quite annoying to me. And that's probably not really their fault. Like it in the end, like, they have to stock their shelves and things can be popular. You can't always keep everything and whatever. But when you want something, when you need it, and when you need it, like sometimes it's like me getting a Cabbage Patch doll for a kid in the 80s. Like you when you want it, it's not there.
Yeah.
So I understand.
And we have the mindset now too that where you should, because in many cases you can, if you want something, you can have it like
instant
now.
Gratification.
Yeah. So you're kind of planning that, like if this had been 15 years ago or whenever, you wouldn't have just figured, well, I'm going to go down and buy these paints, maybe even, but, or maybe you'd had hobby shops close by, but.
Yeah, no, I been fortunate that I actually have, and most times when I've wanted to had pretty good hobby shops that I could go to. And when I was younger, there was no internet. When I first started gaming.
What?
It's so
how old are
all
you?
there was.
I thought you were.
I
you
forget
are
where
Musty.
sometimes I forget where I am when I'm with you guys. But
you kids.
You
all
kids.
fun and games
because I'm like
well,
I don't know. I think I'm the youngest one here. So
yeah, get off my lawn, Palmer.
I don't really think of myself ever as being the youngest one anywhere, except for when I'm here.
Hey, what are you trying to say, man?
Yeah, what? Hey, Gramps, hush up there. Isn't it past your bedtime?
Ouch.
Hey, you are a grandfather. What are you talking about?
Well, that wasn't my fault.
Anyway, I think the main thing I wanted to say was not that they didn't have the stuff when I needed it, so I got mad and then ordered it out of spite. That was true at that time. But I think mainly what I wanted to say is I think there is a turning point in price. Like I do think that there's a price for everything in this case. Like if somebody says like, it's $200 for Star Army here, but you're going to spend $400 and go to your local gaming store. Well, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like that's just ridiculous. And so, but if somebody says it's $200 to do it, to get it normally online, but you're going to spend like $220 or $225 or $230, something like that at your local gaming store. Well, maybe, like it's a matter of personal choice, preference as to what like that price
If
flux
that's
is.
enough
But
difference.
but that might be acceptable if you're going down, particularly if you're going down every Saturday and playing games there for free, like using their table and all that stuff. Like to me, that could be very acceptable.
Well, and to reverse your paint story, it might be a situation too where you literally can go down there and pick up that $200 starter army. You know they have it on the shelf, or you could order it, and have it in a couple 3 days or a week, or depending on what you're ordering. But so that can be helpful. Then you say, well, for an extra $20, I don't care. I can have it I can have it in my house in like 20 minutes. So I'm doing that.
Right.
If they have good stock.
And this one thing is like, I say I'm playing a game maybe on the next weekend, and I don't want to have to wait to order it. I'm going to buy it from my local shop so I can have it assembled and painted for my game on Saturday.
Yeah, that's true too. Right.
So there's the convenience of having it local. That's the one nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think? Rusty started to weigh in on that too, but like what does everybody think? Rusty, do you have more thoughts on it that you want to?
Well, I've done both. It's like there are times when it's like I like you said, you buy everything you can local when it comes to paints. I buy everything local, that aspect of it, all the time. I don't even think about it. It's like I need to run over to this. I'm at the point now where I need to go over to my local shop, and I didn't go this Tuesday because my back was bugging the heck out of me. But I need to go pick up some more paint, and that's usually what I do when I'm there if I need to. But yeah, that's the one thing I'm always looking at is what can I pick up locally. But this Italian army that I picked up. I don't know if I mentioned that. I picked up an Italian's starter.
Yeah,
army.
you told me. Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear that on your channel.
The reason I picked it up because it was like $30-something cheaper. That's a big difference, That's a vehicle, and they had it on sale, so I was like, I picked it up off of Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like my local shop didn't have it, so and then my local shop wouldn't have it on sale like that much off either. So,
so there was a price component to it.
Yeah. And when it comes to saving a little bit of money here and there, that's sometimes you do what you got to do.
I mean, these wars have to be fought.
Yes.
Yes. and we need more men. We need more men.
There needs to be more men, and these wars have to be fought. It's not just going to happen on its own.
Basically, yeah, our hands are tied. Basically, we have no other choice.
Napoleon said I had to get this army, so I am.
I am having my second brandy.
That explains a lot.
Careful.
Probably make a lot more
Careful.
sense.
He'll speak up on you.
Well, I don't have a local store really. I mean, the closest hobby shop for me is about an hour and 10 minutes, and that's going 70 down the interstate for most of it. Mm-hmm. So it's a ways. But my one daughter lives there, or close to where the hobby shop is, sort of ish. So I do get like paints, a lot of paints and maybe brushes, except for
do you send her for errands?
Actually, I've had her pick up some things. Because it was just the wrong time of day. They're closed or whatever.
Yeah,
she's gone with me before too.
Yeah,
but so because there's the Hobby Lobby, I can get my craft paints there, cheap brushes, and I get that artist board, that that terrain supplies, but also they have a very limited supply of Vallejo paints, so I do get some of those. The rest of the Vallejo paints I have to order online, and then there's a game store that's both board games and a lot of miniature stuff. And they have a really good paint rack for Army Painter and for GW. So I use the Army Painter spray varnish and their primers. I know people have opinions of all the different things, and but I really like them, and I've always had good luck. And I've tried a lot of different primers, and that's by far my favorite. So, and I do buy that there. But as far as like, it's funny, other than like most of my stuff, it's not available in hobby shops, because like for my bolt action, I do have some Warlord game stuff, but what I really like and what I've really gone to is the Black Tree Design has been my go-to for. I have German, American, and almost my entire Soviet army is Black Tree Design. And so, you'd order those direct from them, which is cool because it's a small company you're supporting, which I really like that. All my terrain for my Stalingrad table is all literally, I don't know where else you get it. I'm buying it basically direct. So I like that from a small, and he actually pours them himself. So that's cool. And then, then I like for all my Warhammer stuff, the Bretonians and stuff, that's all eBay stuff because it's all out of print old stuff that and I add to my undead army a little bit once in a while. So that when I'm ready to start painting that, I've got it collected together. And so, a lot of stuff I get is not miniature wise. And then like for my American War of Independence, I've gone to mostly using Brigade Games, the Paul Hicks sculpts. Again, small company. So, I guess a lot of the stuff I can't even get, even if we had a really nice hobby shop down the street, wouldn't sell the things that what I'm buying. So
you bring in
I'm helping a small business. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a different twist on it because like what you're basically saying is that for all intents and purposes, you don't have a local gaming store.
Yeah, I've never gamed in a gaming store ever.
So when you don't have a local gaming store, they're not local to you. It's a 2-hour trip there and back, like to go.
Yes.
Then really, like there isn't a moral dilemma as much as to whether to order away, and then in turn you're also ordering direct from many small suppliers that are making it themselves. So it's almost a direct purchase, from them, supporting them. And when I order from Minden Miniatures, it's very much the same thing. You know what I mean? Like when I order from them.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. So who's next?
Well, I gotta say one thing is that like when it comes to getting Warlord game stuff, it's like all of the AWI stuff that I have, I ordered directly from Warlord. So direct support.
That's where I got my starter set was direct from them.
Yeah. Mostly because nobody carries this stuff around here.
Yes.
So,
nobody.
I don't know if it's changed at all, but I actually really like Warlord as a company, even though I've never always gotten every single thing they've done. Like, the things that I have liked a lot of their stuff. And I have had good experiences with them. Sometimes it is nice, even though they're not a small company, like we were just talking about, like Dan was mentioning. Sometimes you do get like a bit of loyalty, like even with a larger company that does well. Like, I think I've always said, I've said it a million times, that whenever Warlord screws up a delivery, they've always made it worth my while. Like I've almost been happy they did, because they've sent me like a couple free blisters. Yeah. Or miniatures like in the package when they made a mistake.
Right.
And it's like to me, like that just shows that they've got their head on straight. Like, you know what I mean? Like when it comes to like their customers and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother subject. But
and I just went through where the miniatures that came in the blisters that I had were bent up or destroyed in some way or another. And it's like, okay, yeah, we'll take care of you immediately. And within a week, I have the replacements. The airmail, they probably losing money on me. Oh, in the long run.
Have good customer service, right?
Yeah.
In the long run, they're probably making money though.
Because I'm coming back and buying stuff from them.
In the medium run, or in the short run, they might be losing money, but in the long run, they're not.
Because you don't hear many complaints, because people talk about their customer support, and actually they've won different YouTube awards and stuff, even end of the year awards for their customer service. And I've never had an order messed up. I do order occasionally direct from Warlord. They've got their U.S. shipping, so it's reasonable. And every once in a while, they'll have a deal where it's even lower shipping is free.
Yeah, if you have a large enough order, they'll give. I think it's now
Yeah.
$75.
Or 80 or somewhere
like
in
that.
there, but occasionally they'll do like a $50 free to the US, and I bought a few things when they had like when the coronation ceremony. I think they had 20% off, like was it everything in the store or something? So I bought some
Oh.
of their Polish infantry
Yeah.
stuff, and they
Well-
had free shipping at $50, so it was like you couldn't go wrong there.
When I first got into Musket and Tomahawks, I probably got a product from them that's one of the harder products to get right, and that is I bought their French Marines for French Indian War. They were all metal miniatures, and there were like over 20 miniatures individually sculpted, and so they had to
Wow.
pick over 20 miniatures to put in a box, all metal, not on a sprue, like, and they would send me doubles or even like the wrong miniature and like completely like from something else for one, like just one out of like a whole box. And I am that guy that if I look at the back of the box and if there's like, if I'm supposed to get 20 to 22 miniatures of all of these kinds, if you don't send me those, you send me a double, I will ask for you to send me the miniature I didn't get. Like, you know, just
really?
because.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
I
wouldn't
will.
care.
I will.
I
I
wouldn't
absolutely will. I absolutely will. And then they actually then sent me not only the miniature but like another blister. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I admit that it's harder to do that than some other things. Like when you just have like, let's say 3 miniatures, or it's a plastic kit where it's all on sprues, you know, or something like that. But I'm not the one that set it up. They did. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it comes down to. And also I was so into it that I actually wanted all of them. Like I wanted all of those individual sculpts that were in there. So yeah. Dan's like, I'm surprised you admitted that on camera.
I'm that guy.
This is out there now, Palmer.
Yeah, I am that guy. But hey, I'm a fan of lore. You know, I might be that guy, but I am a fan of Warlord games. Like I actually do like their stuff. I'm not
No,
I'm not
that's
pissing
fair
on
enough.
them, you know.
And there's nothing wrong with getting what they say they're giving you. You know, that you're not out of bounds for that.
I've had worse things than that. Like I've had things where, like I have had things where necessary things were not included, like for like a kid or whatever.
I mean that's legit.
But they've always been very good, yeah, in that regard.
Yeah, good.
Like one time,
that's good.
And they were smart about it too. They didn't just send me like they didn't just like when I was collecting French Indian War, like send me a blister pack of Ottomans or something like that, like ancients, you know, like just as like a bonus thing. Like, guess what? Like you got these for free because we had extras. You know what I mean? No, they actually one time when they messed up, I was getting some like Delaware Indians, you know, for French Indian War, and when they messed up, they not only replaced me what they were supposed to, but they had 2 packs, A and B, and they sent me one of the ones I'd never ordered before of the stuff I'm collecting. And so like they actually looked at my purchase history and like basically said, yeah, like you'll probably like these, and they gave them to me for free. You know, like
that's cool.
Like,
yeah,
that kind of stuff is like
that's over the top.
I've never had a company do that, like other than them. Like I've honestly never had a company like really try to make up for things and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Well, and they're not a giant. I mean, they're a big company. It's always compared to what though, but I mean, like they wouldn't even be able to be in the same city as GW. I mean, as far as they're not the same class at all as far as financials.
That's true.
You know, but at the same time, it is. I still feel when I'm supporting them, you still feel like it's somewhat of a small company though, and a lot of their games. You know, they've got their couple bigger games, but really, frankly, honestly, most of it's really niche gaming stuff.
Yeah.
You know, to be really fair. I mean, in our community, you know, like, you know, Bolt Action and the Windy Boat game and the
Black Powder.
You know, Black Powder and Hail Caesar, which are just rules. You know, you can buy your miniatures anywhere. And then, you know, a lot of those epic scale games they've come out, which is actual miniatures as opposed to just rules. So, because even Bolt Action, yeah, they sell a complete range of everything, but there's absolutely no pressure, and regardless of the tournaments I've been to, always had prize support direct from Warlord, and it's you didn't, whether you used their stuff or not wasn't really, it's not even in the back of anybody's mind. It's like not even a thing, so
Yeah.
which is incredible for a company like them to, because their real output of expenses or outlay is in their miniature ranges.
I think they're like, miniature gaming is kind of still, compared to even like, I think like word games with miniatures, is still a smaller pond than
Yes.
other things, and
It
then
is.
historical is probably smaller than fiction, I would think, like overall. And so then when you go into
at one
it, though,
time, historical used to be the largest,
yeah,
and then now it's
that's
sci-fi.
where
I
it
think is
started.
the
yeah.
Probably.
And so with that in mind, I think once you narrow down to historical, I think Warlord's a bigger name, like within miniature. But I think you're right to
True
say
enough.
that I think you're right to say that in the grand scheme of things, being the big fish in that small of a pond, like it's a pond within a pond, means you're, you're not anything like necessarily compared to GW. Like, you know what I mean? Like in that
Right.
scale. Yeah.
Right. But, and I'd be interested to know, like, as far as miniature sales, how do they compare to, like, Perry's or Victrix or,
Yeah.
some of that's what they do is sell miniatures, because they're
I'd be
competing
surprised.
directly.
I could be naive here because I do know the Perry's like miniatures are fantastic and they have a tremendous reputation, within the industry. But I'd be surprised if their sales were as much as Warlords, like anywhere close.
Just even
I
in
agree with you.
miniatures, though, I'm not talking
About everything. Yeah.
That's possible.
You mean just the miniatures?
Possible.
I still would be surprised because I think it has nothing to do with the quality. Like, I think it has everything to do with how you position yourself as a business and the games and that are there and just like the website, and you just look at everything. They just seem to me that I would be really surprised based on the delivery mechanism and all of the tangential things like the games they support, because a lot of people do buy miniatures based on the games, and I really think that's a huge part of it, because there's so many companies that I think make amazing miniatures that don't have games associated with them, that are just small because of that, like in good games and like big kind of like a big vision for their company, if that makes sense. Yeah. But I think the Perry miniatures are amazing. Like, I'm not taking anything away from them. Yeah, I really am not taking anything away from them, and I know they have a huge fan base. But I actually I would be surprised if they're netting anything close to Warlord as a company.
That could be. I know their bolt action range. The one thing that really has been an advantage, and now some other people are jumping in, and then you got 3D printing, of course, too now. But that they have a plastic range, and that which is extremely popular with a lot of people. Not only just because the reasons they think they like plastics better or whatever, whether it's customization or they're cheaper or they can, they like the assembly or whatever. That helps because some people are just drawn to that, and then a lot of people jumping into a game system. Well, like even you were talking, Palmer, you go into the Warlord site and it's like, well, you pick a starter box or a starter army, or you pick the Army's book. Then it's like, well, I'll get some German troops and all, it's a one-stop shop type thing. So you can, if you don't know all the manufacturers and don't, and a lot of them are overseas and it's all kind of confusing and they're more expensive maybe. So then I think those kind of gamers, it's an easy sell.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we've talked about this on the channel. I've talked about it with Rusty, but the Sentry box, which is one of, like, I actually have probably at least 5 local gaming stores in my city, if not more, because it does change. But the Century Box is the biggest, and honestly, I was telling Rusty, they actually made a movie that they played a documentary at Gen Con called My Local Gaming Store, and it's based on the Century Box in my city. It's
No way.
Yeah, it is. It's what the owner is very humble in saying this, and that nobody's ever claimed to be bigger than them. He doesn't say he's the biggest gaming store in the city, in the world, but he may very well be. Wow. It's on 2 floors, and it's just gigantic. Like, the place is huge. You should watch it. It's on YouTube. You can see it for free. It's called My Local Gaming Store. It's
okay.
It was on Gen
I will.
Yeah, and basically, when I go there, because they are who they are, like, they're as big as they are, and they have an entire area dedicated to historical on the upper floor. You do have to go up a set of stairs to get to it, but it's a huge room, and they will have Perry's on the shelf, but I suspect most places, like most smaller places, when they carry like the Warlord, the bolt action rule set, will have all the really cool black boxes that match the look of the rule book on the same area,
and it's easy to stock from one manufacturer, and
and as a player, that isn't as wise as, you know, like somebody just getting into it that's maybe not as well versed as you or myself. They'll see the boxes like American Starter Army, and hey, I just bought a Starter Army from Warlord, and you know, I'm planning, actually, based on your recommendations and just because I like them, getting some Black Tree stuff too. But I think it's real easy and nice to be able to just like take the rule book and like move right over with my eyes and see the boxes that match the look of it, and then just buy it. And if I'm the owner of the game store, if I'm the owner, if you were to ask, if I'm the owner in a small place, like, as I see a lot of small places that are what I would call one bay in a strip mall, like, you know, they're only not 2 bays, they're like just one bay. What I would do if I'm going to carry Warlord products is I'm going to probably most likely not only buy the rule books from them, but buy the miniatures and put them all together. And I'm not going to think a whole lot about other ones, like, you know, like, because I'm probably going to have like Warhammer next to it or something like that. You know, like I'm not going to have like 3 other options for like USGIs, you know, like I'm going to just put the Warlord ones there and then just do that. And that's the only reason I say I think Warlord's probably bigger, you know, in the way that the delivery of it all and the packaging of it. But I don't know. Like,
I guess a lot of it is, a lot of the historical like YouTube channels I watch are UK based people, and which is, I assume they have well, maybe not total people, but I mean, it's the historical gaming is huge over there, and you see people with just and these tournaments, and they'll go to these game conventions and stuff, and it's just tables and tables of mostly just like Perry Napoleonic miniatures, and so, you know, I don't know how much of it translates because of, you know, being North America, but either way, and I guess it doesn't matter, but they obviously can compete well. They both have good fan bases, but I think, like you say, where you can get the even for a larger hobby shop, if they can have the Starter Army and then the Warlord boxes that match, and then the Army books right here, it's one manufacturer they're ordering from. They can put a bulk order in, whatever, maybe the minimum, maybe even that minimum dollar orders, and it's a lot simpler to inventory, and it's going to be a niche group of people wanting to even look at it. So you can't have some Victrix, you know, you can place a little order with Victrix and a little order with Perry and a little, you know, order with all these small manufacturers. So, and that's what I think keeps them going. But it's interesting because, you know, it's really figure agnostic, you know, that, and they've been making good quality World War II miniatures, for example, you know, for a long time, and, you know, 25, 28 millimeters. So,
and a lot of the folks
they've found a way to make themselves fit and be relevant.
And a lot of the folks that we watch on YouTube are sort of like discretionary hobbyists, and like a lot of the folks that you probably gravitate to at times on YouTube. It's not that I don't like to watch people that are new into the hobby that have cool videos, but a lot of the folks that we look at that have been in the hobby for a while are a bit more discretionary, like in what they buy, and I'm not sure that they're a representation of the wider market always.
Probably not.
But actually, Chris has got some interesting comments. Besides the fact that he's been having some Wi-Fi issues, that's a new thing. What did Chris say here?
Warlord has the volume of miniatures, of types of miniatures, and having the starter sets with rules. I would think Warlord would be doing 3 to 4 times the amount that Perry's do. And I would say that's probably true, because you're going to find that Warlord miniatures are going to be stocked in some place in most areas if they're doing any type of bolt action. And that would be probably, I'd say 70% of their volume is probably bolt action.
Yeah, I would have to believe that.
Might be even more. Sentry Box has been around since 1980. That's a long
They had
time.
a store. The owner had a store before it too, like a smaller store.
It has 13,000 square feet. That's big.
Mm-hmm. It's quite large. It's a great place.
I'd like to know what Mayhem's volume is, because you could put Game Castle, probably about 4 Game Castles inside where Mayhem is in Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
They're fairly large.
Yeah.
They got a big gaming area. And instant gratification. And that's the thing, is the instant gratification. You get individuals that, hey, I'm going to play this game, and it's like right there on the typically on the shelf, you're going to have a starter army with the flavor that you want.
Yeah.
And just recently, it's like Warlord has started the French. Now you can get them in plastic, which is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that they're doing too. They have all these armies in plastic, which people like. And it's cheaper, to get started, especially.
And the Warlord, the guys from Warlord started, they came from Game Workshop, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
In the same way with Mantic Games, too. They came from Games Workshop.
Yep.
So you
and
they
were able to be successful because, I would say largely because GW killed Warhammer when they did. That's when they became extremely relevant.
Yeah. We should have another topic in the future. Maybe it needs to be refined, but my thought is, like, when I think of the Perrys, I think of Rick Priestley, who actually plays at the Perry's house at times. Like, he's actually, I know that a lot of the like old school guys that were around for a while in gaming, like, have these relationships and they game together, and they're sort of a generation.
Johnson still games with them regularly.
Yeah. There's like a generation of folks that have carried on the torch for wargaming from time before them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, like, what do you guys think? And maybe for the next topic, or like a topic in the future, what do you guys think is going to keep the crunchy or old school style of gaming that some of us appreciate alive, like in the future after that generation is no longer here?
What do we see out there today are going to be their equivalent, right? Who's going to replace that?
Yeah. And like what, and even us, like, in the sense of, like, things are changing in the way the games are going. And do we think these kinds of games that we're talking about are going to be around in 20 years?
Right.
Like, and being played in 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've touched on this slightly. I mean, I'm taking it to the next level, but, even when we talked about 3D printing, when we talked about, like adding, will tabletop miniature gaming even just eventually become obsolete, just because you could do all kinds of virtual reality type things, and you can, that's kind of along those same topics.
I actually think it's, I do think that there's a relevance to, like, will miniature gaming in this kind of way continue? But I actually think it's a little different in the sense that I don't think miniatures are going anywhere. If anything, I think they're going to increase. Like, I actually think with the board gaming miniatures and like many of the other stuff that's out there, miniatures are actually not going away. Like, in my mind, like they might be 3D printed, like they might be made.
Yeah, miniatures won't, but will the hobby?
Well, will Napoleonic large scale mass battles still be here? And like, will there be an audience playing this in 30 years? 20 years is tough because like I'm 50 right now. And so when I'm 70, I can still potentially play a Napoleonic game if I chose to do that. And I would still have a memory of the past, like and like the nostalgia and like doing this. In 30 years, I'll be 80. I likely won't be playing with miniatures at all when I'm 80, most likely. I don't know. You know, like if medicine stays the same, that's a whole nother discussion. But like there is some anti-aging research out there right now that's pretty significant, actually. If you listen to Elon Musk, but if you listen to what's going on, like, you know, we may be quite different in 20 to 30 years. But I think if everything stays the same, you know, like 30 years is quite significant. And like we might actually see a lot of the people that are doing that we look up to and around us right now not really relevant in 30 years. And so it is like a lot of the stuff you play, Tim, like the mass battles and ancients, like is that going to be around in 30 years?
Well, what you're going to see is what us old people have seen. Like I'm going to be 66 in a week or so. And what I've seen is everything is cyclical. These skirmish games and these small scale games, they're very interesting. They're very quick to play. But a lot of times they lack the satisfaction because you're just cycling through it so quickly. I think there'll be a time when people will be tired of that, and it won't take very long. You see it in all kinds of stuff. You can see it in food and fashion and movies and the type of movies that get made. You'll see these genres come back, and it will happen in gaming as well. You'll see in martial arts, it used to be everything was divided. You had the kicking arts, you had the punching arts, and because that's just the way it was taught at a particular time in history. Now what you see in history is everybody does everything. You want to be good at everything. Well, what you're seeing now is the division part of wargaming. Used to be these skirmish type ideas were always part of a larger storyline. This fight for this bridge led to this sort of thing, and kind of on and on and on, but it always led to the bigger battle. Now what we've done is we've separated those small encounters, and this goes with everybody wants their guy to be special. You know, we want our ancients dudes now to be special forces dudes. You know, it's like we want to have these 12 elite guys. It's a fad right now, and it too will run its course, and those people will, a lot of them, as they stay in the hobby, they will begin to look at these old pictures and these old, because just like there's copies of H.G. Wells' Little Wars still that you can get, there'll be people 20, 25 years ago looking at these old rule books where there's these mass armies on the table and go, wow, I wonder what that's like. That's cool. When they come from these small games, it will come back. It may not be exactly the same. It may not be exactly the same, but it will have that visual, because that's the one thing about mass battle games. They're very visual.
Yeah,
When you
I agree with
see a
that.
large table with lots of miniatures and lots of terrain, and you've got this, and Napoleonics is different.
Cinematic.
The uniforms are so colorful. Some of them are just outright outlandish, and you can have this. It can almost look like a piece of artwork. When you
I actually, in a lot of ways, you're kind of like preaching to the choir in some ways, because like
Yeah,
when you talk
sorry.
about how
Yeah.
cool this stuff is, no, like you said, actually some, actually I like your point in that it's actually different than mine, and it's actually very you've taken a stand on it on the issue. I like to think about what you said, and that you think that it is going to come back to it, and that things come in cycles, and that people will do it. That's interesting to me. Where I struggle because of like the video game generation in particular is I almost feel like it's going to go, and it has gone, the art of convenience, that they're going to take the mass battles just visually or even three-dimensionally on a table, like without having to do the work, like
Right.
like
Yeah.
because like as you guys know, there's a lot of work in this hobby, and I've not even done the mass battle stuff to some levels.
Yes.
And where I struggle to imagine maybe the kids of my kids will actually be different and like want to do like a lot of painting the same guy over and over 1,000 times, but I struggle with believing it will happen. I almost think that it's going to change. It's going to be like what you said. It's going to be slightly different. Like it's going to be maybe the same motivation to see the visual and to play the big battle game, but maybe it's going to be slightly different. I almost feel like
with the
this is going away a bit.
Yeah, with the technology of 3D printing, and it's only going to increase in its ability to do complex things
And colors, because they're already doing that.
Right.
They're already being able to print things with colors.
Right.
And so they might be 3D printing fully painted things.
That's what I'm saying, that the ease of getting into it again, instead of them spending hours like I do. Now, I enjoy the painting process. I enjoy that focus time where me and my little miniature right there in front of me. I enjoy that. You're right. I think that maybe some of those younger people may not do that, but because the technology will increase to where instead of it, having to take 6 months to a year to complete your battalion of French infantry and cavalry and guns and stuff, it could take them 2 or 3 days, depending on what scale they want to print it at and how, or they could just go in, I want this unit from this era, 1809 or whatever, with the buttons, and they'll have it, what do they call it? The program that you buy, the file. They'll have a file that'll have all that in there, and you'll go and you'll probably pay a good fee for that, and you come back in 3 or 4 days, and there's your army and all of its banners, commanders, everything in color. It may be something they'll be able to do. Well, they'll just, what game do you want to play this at? You want to play like Hail Caesar with all frontage? Do you want a lot of depth? It could be the whole thing comes printed out as a unit. Here you go. Already colored, everything.
And that's an interesting thing, because like I'm a bit double-minded on the importance of doing the slow route. Like, make no mistake about it. Like, I would never trade my painting skills and what I've done over the last bit to try to learn how to paint and the joy of painting for anything. Like the convenience of printing out an army and being able to play would not replace my wanting to paint. Mm-hmm. Having said that, when playing games like Star Wars Armada and getting the ships already done, there is a value sometimes with certain things being able to just play right away, and it is not the hobby. Like it's more like acquiring a board game that plays like a miniature game, like
Right.
and like that's kind of what it's like. But that might very well be what it is for some people in the future. I don't think anything's going to change in the sense I think there will always be artists. Like I
Yeah.
don't think the future is going to take away art. Like
No.
I don't think that people are going to stop painting.
No, but the gaming industry, the entire hobby is a small part of it is painting. That's all I'm wondering. I'm just because there's a lot of things that like, well, you used to farm with horses, and everybody had horses, and everybody there were horse breeders everywhere, and it was a whole industry. But now, yes, there's still horses, and there's still horse shows, but it's this little teeny tiny fringe of anything now. It's people that have a passion for the animal or the nostalgia, or they love so you wonder as the technology improves and where you've got AI and you've got virtual reality, and that it's like, well, we don't play with blocks anymore. We don't have to, some of those things that, I mean, I'm thinking 25, 30 years down the road, if enough, look how much has changed in the last 20 that it becomes obsolete. And then the new things that are happening, you only have so much time in your day. What are the things you want to spend it on? Yes, people will still do art, and people will probably still paint miniatures, but I would wonder if you won't have people getting together and playing large self-painted armies of Napoleonics. And for me personally, I would never, unless it was ultra cheap, that is the hobby to me. The playing of the game, I would buy a board game instead if board games are still, I know we still have card games, so people still play pitch and and hearts and but again, pretty fringe too. So when you have a fringe hobby already, do we make it more fringe to what point that it's not even, I mean, people aren't even producing files for things because that's not where the money is. Now it's like 8-track players. It's like, you can still listen to 8-track, but and you can still find them, but nobody's going to make them. And nobody makes a player because we've moved on.
But people do make vinyl.
Sometime it'll be just this fancy gaming table that you purchase, and it's and instead of like, how you download video games from like Steam. Steam has all the video. You download your video game. You don't even possess it physically.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at some point in time in the future, like if you're a gamer like that, instead of having this kind of thing behind you, you'll have this table set up, and all you have to do is turn it to the proper channel, download your, log into your game. Those miniatures appear in that holographic, like Palmer was talking about.
Like Star Wars.
Yeah,
right. Just like Star Wars,
and it won't come off the table. Yeah, you won't have to worry
about Chewbacca flipping out because of the fact that he lost.
Yeah,
like
that sort of thing.
Let the Palmer win.
Yeah, you let the Palmer win.
Let the Palmer win. Yes,
that'll start down the game for you. We got to let the Palmer win.
I think as creatures, we are visual, and like, I think as much as many of us find miniature gaming, like many people will say that are really into gaming, that they much prefer hex and counter games because of the
it's precise
the focus on the rules and the precision, and the very little effort you have to expend on the miniature component.
And it could still be gorgeous.
And I'm not downing those games. Like, as a matter of fact, I have one that I need to play, like French Indian War one, that I purchased at the suggestion of Curtis, GM.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I have it, and I'm probably going to try it soon. Having said that, like, the passion and the emotional aspect of seeing, I think is actually powerful. And I do wonder whether in the future, because we are also convenience driven as a species, I think, and I do wonder whether having, the ability to have imagery produced for us, even at a 3-dimensional level, would just quickly, for the masses, take away the need for miniatures. If that was to happen. The actual, like when I actually paint these guys and I put the base as goblin green and like people on like, you know, like Facebook or YouTube, and they look at my goblin green with my yellow sand and like, you know, on top and say, oh yeah, like that reminds me, you know, like that's that's the stuff, you know, and like basically, you know, we harken back to this day of like, you know, this time that's gone in some ways. That to me is not going to be the driver of the future.
Right. So that's why I wonder, because some of that, we all have our history is where our perspective comes from, right? Mm-hmm. And so as the new, you know, the newer, younger generations are having different experiences, and maybe not, whether experiencing gaming or not isn't even necessarily important. Will that be what their nostalgia is? Is that how, you know, how just your experiences were? That's the kind of stuff we had. We were pre-technology. I mean, this, like what we're doing right now, would be ludicrous to think about 20 years ago. You'd be like, you're shitting me, right? Back in the day, you know. And so I think sometimes we can't make that next leap because our background isn't allowing us to.
We're pretty much stuck in the analog aspect of gaming, even though Palmer and I have stuck our toe into the digital aspect of it because we can create things now. But we still like the tactile feel of feeling things and putting them on the table.
Yeah, and handling. I like handling
to
things.
Create log things from our digital.
Yeah.
I'm using all my digital expertise to make the orc. What is it called? the orc thing that you pulled out.
The God Masha.
Yeah. Now I can. Yeah, and it's funny. It's ironic that you and I both.
It is ironic
to make things that, you know, from the past.
It was like we're sticking our toes into the digital so we can go back 30
so we can
years
go back in time, essentially.
Well, play with things that we used to play with.
Eventually, between you know, they get like in Star Trek where they had the the holodecks.
Yeah.
Dude, then
you can make the food, whatever drink you wanted.
Or no, the holodecks.
The holodeck, the teleporting.
Where they go out and experience, you know, they go. That's where they unwind and relax. They go. You could go lay siege to a castle.
Like
you can
vacations and stuff.
The
holodeck.
Yeah.
So they can do their RPGs in real time.
Right. Yeah, you could do your, because they would sometimes they do like stuff like like we would game. Only you can, I mean, totally do it.
They were
even
LARP. They were LARPers.
Yeah.
That was
LARPing.
That was Next Generation where they started that. That was Next Generation where they did a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
I remember those.
Yep.
Yeah. Where they're in like old costumes and stuff.
Because a lot of them go back in time or something. But
that was before cosplay was popular too.
Yeah. They were doing it there on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Man, we are old. There would probably be some youngster that's probably watching this going, what are they talking about?
Well, back in our day, that's the way it was. We liked it.
So going back to the original, so I thought this would be for like a future topic, but it was a good topic for today too. I still am left thinking after all of our discussion that playing a game, which a modern rendition is probably Black Powder, but like older Napoleonic games with large amounts of miniatures, 28 mil, like on the table, like and painting up armies over 2 years. I have a feeling like it's going to be in the way we do it as a thing of the past, but maybe in the way that Tim has said that it could turn around, and Chris has thought so too in the comments, that maybe it will come back just in a different form, you know, like that idea for mass battles and just that people are going to know what happened in the past, that even people from 20 to 30 years from now, some of them are going to be like our kids and like our grandkids, and they're going to be like, that was cool. And like, that was old school. And I want to do that, and maybe it'll just take on a different form. Cause even when we do it now, it's different than the people did it 30 or 40 years ago.
Fair enough. Right.
Like the people that paint, I have a friend that paints up miniatures for effect in like enamel, like old, like school paints of 3 colors, like wooden, like soldiers, like soldiers, but looking like shiny and like 3 colors and just like the past and liking it. You know what I mean? Like for that reason, even though it's, and not worrying about like, 3 different blocks of colors and highlights and shades and this and that and whatever. Like we've evolved, even whether we maybe acknowledge it or not, from like the 1950s or 60s, in the way it was done. And maybe that's all it will be. Maybe in the future, it'll be that they still do it, but instead of it being 3 block colors and enamels, or our system, like the Foundry system or like the GW system, that we kind of like become accustomed to, maybe it'll be holographic, or 3D printed colored miniatures, or something else.
Yeah. It's hard to know, but, and I do know, like during the bolt action tournaments I go to, they're held in the school, and it's bolt action in one, part of the gym, and then they've got Kings of War, and there's 40K, and there's Marvel. There's all kinds of games going on. But there'll be kids there, like with their parents, wandering through, just checking, seeing the sights, and the kids, there's a lot of kids, they'll really be drawn, if it's a cool table with some well-painted miniatures, it does have appeal. It's not, I think it has it, like you said, human beings are creative by nature. You need a certain amount of touch, that's just, you can take some things away, but some things I don't know that you can. So it might just be different, like you're saying, evolved, but, and maybe it'll be a thing like, that's just still a thing that you do, because artists still paint on canvas, and, and they're in galleries. That's been done since, for however many thousand years. So, maybe that part will hold, but whether or not the gaming does, or if you can have companies that can produce rules, if that's still a thing, or, how that evolves. But the art side of it, I think, will still be, and there might be people even building large Napoleonic armies in some form, even just for the visual of it. That's what art is, essentially. It's the visual, and the sense of accomplishment of what you create, creating, I guess, is part of it too.
And in some ways, like, it's an interesting point. In some ways, I feel like people will be painting sculpture long after people will be painting miniatures for gaming. Like in the sense that, like, I think that there are mediums that people do as artists that that they will do because they can, because like art is everything. Like art is everything that's come before, that is now, and that is in the future. Like, and if somebody wants to do anything that's different and call it art, it will be art. But as far as like structured gaming that multiple different,
that's what I question.
That's where I think that it's more suspect as to whether people will do it.
And miniatures in themselves have always been a thing. I mean, people do miniature trains. The dollhouses have been a thing for hundreds of years, at least, probably back longer than that. So there's always something about creating real life in miniature as an art form. And so, but yeah, the gaming side is the part I don't know what I think. They might have it too, where you have programs where you can, much more easily create your own 3D anything, so you could, in a matter of minutes, create, Napoleonic in any scale or whatever. And whether you were making just like a diorama or, a replica of some battle, or, like they have in museums, I mean, that's still the thing, even with all the touch screens and stuff they have in the museums and the virtual walkthrough things you can do. It's still almost every museum somewhere, you know, of any historical significance has some sort of a miniature diorama of some part of either a battle or a historical event. So
Right.
there's some
And
of
I
those fundamental things I think you can't change.
Well,
Won't
and I
go
think
away.
that's where that genesis of the desire as we're children and our creative play, we will see that
Mm-hmm.
in some child somewhere will see that in a museum or see
Yeah.
that in a painted picture.
Mm-hmm.
And the one great thing about humanity is our imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It's our ability to imagine that other thing. We see
Mhm.
something, but then we can imagine it
Create.
as something else as a human
Mhm.
being. We can take that picture and go, wow, we should play with our toy. We should have toys that look like that.
Mhm.
Well, then that imagination continues
Mhm.
to expound on that idea.
Mhm.
And I really believe that in some form, like you guys said, that this hobby will exist. It will go small scale. It'll go big scale. How big and what the format will be, that could be all up to technology and stuff. But the artists that like I like, when I sit down and just want to paint a miniature, I'll do like a 54 millimeter miniature. Like
Mhm.
Musty does those busts. Palmer, you've
Yeah.
done
Palmer
busts.
has.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah,
done.
you've
Yeah.
done busts too. And
Yeah.
Musty with his large, what are those? The Marvel figures?
Yeah.
Oh
Is that
yeah,
what they
yeah.
are? They're
Yep.
really. I mean, those are works of art. Those are like statues, like you were talking about. That
Mhm.
imagination of then saying, you know, mine's bet. You know, we're gonna figure out some way to get these guys to fight other than bashing them together, like when we're taking our old GI Joes and whacking them together and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the real GI Joe, the 12-inch GI Joe, the real one. Yeah, stuff like that. I mean,
Wolverine.
there you go. There you go. They'll see that. And that's the wonderful thing about the human beings, that imagination. And some
Mhm.
young person, they will be inspired by something that they see. Some
Yeah.
magazine, a book, a hologram, or whatever it'll be.
Mhm.
And it'll start that thing. And all it takes is one. It
Mhm.
just takes one. You know, if it was for H.G. Wells, would we really be doing this?
It's a turning point.
Yeah, it's a turning point.
I mean, when he wrote that book, and you know, they showed him laying on the grass, and they had the big figures and stuff, and they had the actual
Mhm.
guns that shot, and that was all just that beautiful imagination that comes up, and that's what will happen. I believe in the human imagination that we will find a
Mhm.
way to play this in some time in the future. It will be played. I don't know to what scale or what whether it'll be just Holly, but someone will see that. They will imagine that. They will have that. An artist will probably start it, and then some other person like us will go, you know what we can do with that, right?
Mhm.
We'll just have some crazy note, but it will. I just believe it firmly in the human imagination of play, of childlike wonder, of visualizing of seeing this thing and then visualizing it as being alive and stuff. Heck, I know I've watched people that back in the day, some of the guys that could paint some miniatures, that they look like they would walk off the table.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's how lifelike they look.
Yeah.
So you imagine, you know, you take a young enough with imagination, and they see that thing. I think that's where this will all come back again. It'll all, whether it dwindles down to just a handful of people, there'll be that.
I think that's the possibility. Is I think they'll build. There still could always be people like, because there's even people today that go back, young people that do things from like the 1920s and 30s that like we don't even know about. Like, you know, like there are that does happen. It's just the question is how relevant.
Yes,
it'll be.
Yeah. Well, they say, you know, back in like the 2020s or something, that was kind of the golden age, and then it, you know, that was the high point or high water mark or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I hate to always be the one. Dan knows what I'm about to say.
You're the responsible one.
I'm always the bad guy. I am always the bad guy, but and I'm not the host. So you guys, I always say you guys can continue on, but we normally do 2 hours. We've done 3 and 15 minutes, and and it's been very fun. Actually, been a really good show tonight. I feel like.
Yeah. I enjoyed having Tim on. That was good.
What did people work on tonight while we were doing our discussion?
I worked on my ornaments the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah, Palmer worked on that.
He worked on a bottle.
No, don't even bring a glass next time, Palmer. Just drink out of the bottle for crying out loud.
I did sand my banshees. That's all I did in the 3 hours and 15 minutes. Unfortunately, I actually had a day where I could paint a lot today, and I actually painted shields and finished and varnished and did like a whole bunch of stuff for my beastmen. And so I had nothing primed and able to do tonight. So what I did is I green stuffed and then sanded these guys, gals, I should say.
Oh, there's your spice rack. Spice bank. That's sharp.
Did
that say Rite Aid on the side? Is that
Rite Aid?
Spice bank.
Oh,
and I worked on this guy.
That's Captain Morgan.
Nice. Did you actually put all the yellow on tonight?
I had 1 coat of yellow on. I put 2 coats of yellow on tonight, and then I put a coat of red on this guy.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Looking good.
Those are cool.
So I finished this, did all the coloring, and then weathering effects and everything on that.
Nice.
So,
you were
Is that House Atreides? House Atreides style?
Yes. He who controls the spice controls the galaxy.
Anyways,
what did Tim do?
I have been hacking and slashing on a box of stuff. I just got stuff in a pile.
You're assembling.
All my painting and everything's back there.
I saw you with the Optivisor on.
Yeah, I knew you were doing some careful
work. I saw you
work.
with the Optivisor on.
It's the only way I can see.
I use the same stuff.
It's like when I'm cutting, and
I'm usually using one of these guys.
I'm liable to cut an arm off or something.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I'm using one of these almost all the time.
I used to have one of those too. I got this thing. It comes with different lenses that you can put in for different. Yeah, it's awfully comfortable too. I can wear this for a long time. My round bald head, I couldn't keep. It kept falling all over my head, you know. And I got a big melon, so that strap would stretch.
All righty. So
all right,
will be what, the 14th?
Yes,
something like that. Yeah.
Oh,
okay. That be over in your channel.
Yes, it will.
Captain
we're kicking away at season 7. Can you believe that eventually we're going to be at season 8
next year?
Pretty soon we're going to be dead. Just slow it down, Palmer. Jeez Louise, man.
In 30 years when I
make it easy.
30 years when I'm dead.
Damn it! Enjoy Tim only has 7.
Tim's only got 14 years left at that rate, Palmer.
Yeah. Like
start digging the hole.
Enjoy season 7. Stop talking about season 8.
Yeah. Young kids these days.
All right, guys.
All right. See you later. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks a lot.
Later, everybody.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Night.
guys.